Center. Happy Thursday. It's a quiet start to this morning in the Omaha Metro. There's no accidents or delays to report, so your morning commute should be smooth sailing. You shouldn't have to worry about being late to your destination, but if that changes, I'll keep you updated throughout the rest of the morning once traffic starts picking up. Be sure to buckle up, drive safe out there. I'm Joey Colbert.
This time saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
What does Saul's loan on? Almost everything, like tools, instruments, designer handbags, construction equipment, vehicles, trailers, appliances. $10 to $50,000 super fast and easy with no credit check. Saul's loans on almost everything.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
The spring yard cleanup season is here. Lanahaw produces Omaha's finest mulch. The best colors, best value, and the best quality. There is a difference. Have us deliver or stop by for convenient on-site loading. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw, 192nd and Center.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Testosterone, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ORDER to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text ORDER to 42424. That's ORDER to 42424.
Every Sunday, Captain Crash guides you through the marina and out beyond the breakers. Come aboard for smooth sailing and music. Your VIP cabin awaits.
If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain.
Someone pour me a reunion on ice. The Sunday Yacht Rock Cruise with Captain Crash. 10 till 3 every Sunday on 1019 The Keg.
Nominations for the Step Forward Awards are now open. These awards are the state's most prestigious awards for volunteerism, and we need your help to find outstanding volunteers from your region of the state. If you know a volunteer who deserves to be honored for their service, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Nominate Now. Nominations must be submitted by June 1st. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
You know the saying, April showers bring May flowers. Well, it's true for heart health, too. Sprinkling in a few small changes can make a big impact on your heart health. Try adding a vegetable to your dinner or no salt seasoning. Looking for support in making these changes? Join a workshop to learn more about a healthy lifestyle. Search Chronic Disease Nebraska for more details. Paid for by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Tell us how you feel on the JTech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Reach Gary, Matt, Connor, Josh, and John anytime on JTech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Contact the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers. JTech Construction, your exteriorexperts.com.
The biggest weekend in college basketball is here, and Westwood One is your home for all of it.
And for the Guarded in Black, the destination is Tampa.
Hi, this is Ryan Radke. Join us Friday at 6 p.m. for our coverage of the Women's Final Four. In Game 1, defending national champion South Carolina will take on Texas, followed by UCLA facing UConn. If it's the Women's Final Four, it's right here.
Friday night, Westwood One presents the 2025 Women's Final Four, and it's right here on 1620 The Zone.
1620 The Zone.
Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome in. It is going to be a busy show today, but it also is now 1 week from the Masters.
Yes, it is.
The weather next week in Augusta looks fantastic. If you've paid any attention to golf, probably not.
I've been paying. I'll be honest with you. I haven't been paying as much attention as maybe I have been in previous seasons.
It's the only sun you're going to see, so I can't wait.
But in 6 days, my taste of the Masters.
We need more joy, Jimmy.
Yeah,
we need the sun.
We do. Well,
that's
I'll
what the
be able to
Masters is
enjoy
for.
The sun on 3 different screens, following the Masters in Augusta, Georgia. It'll be absolutely incredible. But my taste of the Masters 6 days away until I'm eating pimento cheese sandwiches.
Really? Somebody that I know, because they sent me a picture yesterday. They got theirs.
So you could have paid to get it weeks in advance.
So they were bougie.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you wanted to pay for shipping, you could have gotten it this week, or honestly whenever you wanted it.
And
we
you
decided
didn't do
to go
that?
the free route, and we are getting it the week of the Masters.
Nice.
But I will bring it in. I will bring in some things on Thursday for us to look at. So
we
we'll do a little show and tell.
that is a week from today. We're 3 weeks from the NFL draft. Prepare yourself in the wonderful month of April. Welcome in, everybody. It is Gary and Matt with Jimmy, off and running on a Thursday that we will bring to you food. You could talk the taste of the Masters with Sarah Baker Hansen, who joins us.
Yeah, ask her, what do you think of a pimento cheese sandwich? Are there any great pimento cheese sandwiches in Omaha? I've never had a pimento cheese sandwich before. I don't even know what a pimento cheese sandwich is, if I'm being honest with you.
It's bread with pimento cheese.
Well, I don't. What is
back to you, Gary?
I don't even know what pimento cheese is, though. Like,
here's
what
the
is
one.
What's the difference between pimento and cheddar and Colby Jack and American? Is it just? I don't know. What is? I'm being serious here. I'm actually looking for a life raft.
So you make tuna salad, or you make. It's not just a piece of cheese.
Well,
it's
I know,
not like cheese, and then it's that's a piece of pimento cheese.
Sure.
A little different.
It's like it's a spread. Like it's okay.
Have you ever had the Fuhrer's cheese spread? It's a cousin.
I don't know if you'll like it. It's very much an acquired taste. Like you go to the Masters and you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to buy. This is what I'm supposed to eat. You have it one time and you're like, okay, it is very much a Southern delicacy.
I've had the port wine Wisconsin cheese, like that type of cheese that you get in like a little plastic cup, and you like different from that. Okay, I do like that though. I love the port wine cheese.
Wisconsin and Georgia, 2 different places.
Well, I do know that.
Yeah, I've been to Milwaukee and Atlanta plenty. Yeah, they're a little bit different. Traffic is a little bit different. And also 3 weeks
the only thing that's different
from today.
I mean, there are a couple things, but those are details.
People in Wisconsin, people in Georgia have accents.
Brett Favre unites them both.
That's true.
That is a good point.
That is true.
But I mean, all Milwaukee really has is a stadium, a nice hotel, the lake, and a museum. And a really tall U.S. Bank building.
They have Summerfest.
They do have. I haven't been
Milwaukee
to Summerfest.
Summerfest is a banger.
That is a banger.
And
it's a banger. I apologize. I disrespect. I should have remembered something.
They also have the former home of Jeffrey Dahmer. Not everybody in this country can make claims that Jeffrey Dahmer lived in their city.
Damn it! Does Atlanta need a serial killer to match more?
Well, they actually had one. They had a child serial killer back in the 80s.
There you go.
Was it the 80s, Jimmy, or the 70s? Because you would know that's your world.
Yeah, it's true.
What world is it, Jimmy's world? If we're being honest
anything
here.
that's dark. Yeah, you want to go to a dark place?
Oh, hell yes.
We work with radio, news, and sport. Rain Man.
Yes. How was your double dip yesterday in the conditions? You went to Winter Park to watch the Storm Chasers.
Yes.
Drew Waters, who I don't know what'll ever happen to him, but he's back in Omaha. Hit a cycle yesterday. Had an inside the park home run. They beat Louisville.
Yep.
By the way, they're back at it tonight, 6:35. So you went there, and then you ended up where I was at Tal Anderson. I don't think you stayed for the 4 hours.
No.
Yeah, we played a 4-hour baseball game last night between Nebraska and Omaha, and I got thoughts.
So much respect to you, by the way, for being. I know, but for like everybody,
hey, wasn't like in the fourth inning when it became 9-4. I could say, I'm out.
Sure.
Where are you going? We still have 5 innings.
Well, I do want to say this. There was a guy who started in the section that I was in. Okay, who was heckling the entire game. Okay, and he was there
from Omaha or Nebraska.
He was an Omaha fan.
Okay.
And he was in my section. And then when I left and then I was watching the game on TV, the dude was still there. He worked his way all the way behind home plate, and you could still see him heckling Nebraska players and heckling the umpire. So whoever that guy is, if you listen to the show, mad respect to you. And I'm going to be honest, that guy was in like a single zip-up hoodie.
Yeah.
Like he was not bundled at all. My double dip was great. Saw Noah Cameron pitch.
Yeah.
He was not good in the first inning. The wind was howling out to right field. I think there was 2 different homers by lefties in that game. The first at bat was a homer by a lefty, but he was absolutely nails the rest of the way. He pitched 5 innings. I left that game early after Noah was done pitching. They were up 11-2.
You weren't doing the 999 challenge?
No, I was not. I sat down. I had 2 hot dogs and a beer. I watched Noah Cameron pitch. I saw the Drew Waters inside the park home run. Storm Chasers looked really great. Enjoyed my first game at Warner Park.
See,
and then
ain't it nice?
Hopped home.
And were there? How many people were there?
Not
not
a lot of people.
Much.
Not a lot of people. And I also do.
Rough week to open up at home.
They also too at Warner Park. They need to get the miles per hour.
Yeah, so they normally do. It hasn't worked when I was out there opening night. It usually is up there.
Hopefully they can get it going. But I'll tell you this: Noah Cameron's fastball has some whip on it. I mean, it's got whip, and that changeup is nasty. It's absolutely nasty. So I think he's going to be really good for the Storm Chasers this year, and then we'll see what happens with him in the big league roster. And then took a nap, woke up. It was the 6th inning of the Cubs athletics game.
Yeah.
So I watched that. You heard of Iowa unders? We're talking about Sacramento overs this year. All right. Anytime.
This is a joke.
Anytime the A's are in Sacramento.
Not that I'm complaining about the Cubs sweeping them, but that
just as a baseball man.
Also, hey, it's so you're watching.
Yes.
I was driving to the Omaha, Nebraska game. So I flipped on Pat and Ron. And there were only 9,000 people there yesterday.
Jeez.
Oh, so they felt at home,
really,
the A's.
really quiet.
Really?
Yeah, it's quiet on the radio. It's a joke.
It
is a joke that they are playing in that stadium because you know what? No one looks at it and goes, "Ooh, this is what a scaled down version of what they could have done in Oakland."
Sure.
When you watch the Rays play, like the Rays have been home since the beginning of the season.
That's looked okay.
But when you watch it, they have this great atmosphere, and you're like, "Okay, do not move." If you scale down your stadium and make it about 30,000, because they can put about 12 to 13,000 in George Steinbrenner Field, you can be like, okay, I can see this.
Sure.
At the A's, you're like, this looks like a miserable experience in an old minor league ballpark.
It's incredible to me that they're already on the 3rd game of the season and they're 5,000 people down. Now, granted, I know that it was a 3:00 Wednesday game, so that has something to do with it. But the fact that
the problem they did is, and remember, they announced the whole season is sold out. But they have a lot of corporations in Sacramento that bought season tickets.
Yeah.
And you can't announce in Major League Baseball tickets sold. So you do actual scanned tickets is your attendance.
It's just like, I don't understand how a major league team, and granted, I know that they're not in their home city, but I don't understand how a major league team can go to a minor league ballpark, like a
If anyone could do
ballpark
it, it's the Athletics.
that is like less than half of what you were at your major league ballpark, and you cannot consistently get enough fans to consistently have enough people there sold out, and it be loud and it be raucous.
Have you met John Fisher?
No, I haven't. I know if there's any organization that would be able to do it, it's the Oakland, or I guess now the Sacramento and
West Sacramento.
West Sacramento.
I was corrected by my Sacramento friend yesterday.
Oh, it's the West Sacramento A's?
So he said our part of town will not get any credit. And I said, you don't live in West Sacramento. And he goes, yeah, but I do business over there. Once you cross the bridge, the famous bridge, the yellow bridge that everybody sees when they show Sacramento. On the other side of the bridge is where the Kings play in downtown. And then further down the street, look at me, Mr. Sacktown knowledge.
Yeah,
further down the street is the state capitol. But once you cross the bridge, you're in West Sacramento. So that's actually where the ballpark is. So he said, I don't know why announcers and they don't refer to it as West Sacramento. And I said, well, because
it's like West Fargo.
Why confuse people? Okay. You're in Sacramento. So
I like how you're like, hey, bud, not that big of a deal. Not that. I mean, yeah.
Well, he just texted me. He goes, it's West Sacramento. And I said, okay, whatever. Keep it moving.
So
let's fix the Kings. All right. Let's make sure we get in that play-in game.
Or Southeast Oakland.
So watch that game. Go Cubs. Awesome. 45 total runs were scored in Sacramento. I think the total over-under was like 24.5 through the 3 games. Sacramento overs, baby. Let's make some money. And then it was about 5:15, and I go, you know what? I'm going to go to Tal Anderson Ballpark. So I drive over to Tal Anderson, get out my car. I'm walking into the park area, and a man looks at me and goes, here's a ticket. And there were people at the ticket office, and he goes, here's a ticket. I go, oh, thank you. And he goes, any friend of Gary Sharp is a friend of mine. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Thank you,
baby.
So it ended up being the associate athletic director of ticket sales, Derek Shepard, who gave me a ticket.
Yes, great guy.
Awesome dude. Had a little conversation with him. He listens to the show. Thank you so much, Derek. Shout out to him. He gave me a very, very nice seat. I was on the first base line, second row. I was sitting with some of the finest 8-year-old baseball players in the Omaha area, the pace setters. They played Millard Blue today in a very big game. So
you made friends?
Good luck to the pace setters. Yes, I made friends with Wyatt, the catcher. Kid's a stud.
Shout out Wyatt.
Ball. Shout out Wyatt. So
don't wear your friends' hats. Trust me.
Man, did it get cold. It got cold, and it got a little windy.
So even Vers's nephew, Max Butenbach, who pissed on a ball last night, hit it 441 out into the parking lot in right field. Max is back. So Max is he has cleared the head, and he's just doing Max things.
Mm-hmm.
He looks really good at the plate. Even Vers, who in the coldest weather will always wear shorts. So last night, his sister is Max's mom, and then Ben, of course, is his dad, who was an athlete. And a college athlete as well. Vers was wearing a stocking cap, and he had a sweatshirt on and jeans. So it was cold. So by the end of the game, the game went 4 hours. There's a lot of thoughts about what happened at Tal Anderson. Good thoughts for Omaha, not so good thoughts for Nebraska, because Omaha beat Nebraska 11-9. It was because it was 10 o'clock when the game got over. It was like 43 degrees. It was cold. It was cold. But there was a really, really good crowd there last night. So good for you.
Yeah.
But then people had to get away, and they're like, oh, I got crown fever. I want to tell you. So.
And here it is. I've been waiting for this all morning.
Okay. So here's what our game just hit the slog. And Nebraska, Georgetown tips off at 8:30. And I'm like, okay, there's no way that the crown game, because I wanted to watch it, but had it on in the press box, was going to end before our baseball game. But the way it was trending, we had a 10-minute replay review. Mm-hmm. We had the Bill McGuire ump show. It was a gong show last night. So then get home, and Nebraska beat Georgetown.
Yep.
So Nebraska, what are you doing on Saturday at 12:30 because they play Boise State? I just want to say,
this is PM,
of
right?
all of the fandom that you have, your pro teams, your college teams, your high school teams, your youth teams, your fantasy teams, whatever, that this is the most stress-free, enjoyable experience of a Nebraska athletic team that I've had in a while, because I don't care if they don't win or lose. I'm just watching it, and they are playing the role perfectly. The game can be sloppy.
Yes.
They've got a fan sitting basically with the Georgetown coaching staff, and then they ask him to move at halftime. So he goes and sits with the Nebraska coaching staff. There are there's a guy on the sidelines is throwing the bones every time somebody hits a three. I mean, this is a funny tournament.
Gus Johnson is announcing basketball and doesn't know half the players, but
it's you know what, and Nebraska winning last night, and they never trailed in the game. And I'm like, you know what? This is so stress-free. It's enjoyable to watch Bryce Williams.
Yes.
It's enjoyable to watch a guy that tapes his wrists, and I'm like, man, that's a dog. His name's Cale Jacobson. It is just so stress-free and enjoyable. And I'm glad, again, I said this after Monday night's game. Everybody is taking it in as they should.
Yeah.
They're not overreacting. They're not underreacting. They're just, the Crown is funny. And Nebraska being 2-0, getting ready to play Boise State, not till Saturday, is kind of fun. It's just fun.
Look
you
at
don't
you
have to worry
enjoying
about
it.
it.
You're loving it.
You know what?
Look at the smile on your face, man.
The whole thing is out of a movie. It's like okay,
like a comedy movie.
Yeah.
Not like a serious drama, redemption movie.
The guys make $50K after winning last night.
Yeah.
Bryce is doing Bryce things. This is fun. This is how sports should be. You should be able to wake up in the morning and have some fun. And if they lose, you're like, yeah, you know what? Day's going to go on. I'm not going to go into a dark place on Saturday night and avoid the Final Four if they lose to Boise State. I'm just having some fun.
You just need
sports should be fun. Fun is good.
You turned into Jerry Seinfeld there for a second. Fun is good. What's wrong with having fun? You sound like you need to root for like a semi-pro team. Like you need to go out to like a beer league and like root for like, a bunch of different dudes just because, just the silliness. You're absolutely right too. Here's the thing. The best, you hit it spot on with the fact that it is sloppy and the fact that Nebraska will take a bunch of bad shots over a period of time or turn the ball over or like just make really stupid decisions really adds to the ambiance of like, okay, like I get it. Like I understand now why they're playing here in the Crown and not in the NCAA tournament. Like they're winning games and they won yesterday very comfortably, but there was no like thought in your mind really that was like this team should have been in the NCAA tournament.
No, those were
this team should have. Oh yeah,
those were two teams that were basically what the record was.
Exactly,
but it was competition.
They were playing, they were scoring, they were trying to win.
Yeah, fun is good. I mean, Georgetown tried to come back. They made it interesting. It's just the tournament is kind of funny, and people are like, why is this going on? You know what? While it's here, let's be amused. Let's be amused by the Crown that Bryce Williams going to get extra cash.
Yeah.
He probably will go back to Vegas during the summer to be on some NBA roster.
Should
Cale Jacobson, people are like, oh man, guy played 36 minutes last night.
I know.
Wow.
I was watching that game, and there were many times where I thought he's still out on the court, like he's still there, like they make subs, and I'd be like, good for him.
I love that he's taped up on the wrists.
You like the wrist
wristbands? No. We need wrist on the tapes. We need
wrist
tapes.
on the tapes.
We need tapes on. We need tape on the wrists. Zach says immediately. Again, didn't watch garbage Nebraska basketball last night. You know what, Zach? I don't think you like to have fun.
I thought he'd get sucked in.
He said
actually.
It's not worth watching. You know what? There were a lot of moments last night that were worth watching. And we have. I'm going to expose somebody.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to expose somebody here in a little bit when it comes to the Crown. But it's, you know what? It is stress-free watching. For example, if you were at Tal Anderson and you watch Nebraska baseball play and they're going through it in a big way.
Yeah.
Then you're like, am I just going to go home, shut off the lights, and shut her down? Or am I going to watch The Crown? And you're like, hell yeah. Wondering, could the midcourt logo, did it actually get bigger since Nebraska played on Monday?
It's touching the arcs.
Hey, you want to have, there's not a lot of joy in the sport of Nebraska athletics of late, but The Crown is amusing. I strongly suggest watching The Crown at 12:30 on Saturday against Boise State and take it for what it is.
Afternoon basketball.
So I left
sports to watch on TV.
Yeah.
I left
or gamble on
when it was 9-4 from the game at Tal Anderson.
Let me tell you what the final score was. 11-9 Omaha. 2-run homer, bottom of the seventh. Okay, continue.
Pitching changes? Were there 15?
Because
you said 4 hours and it's cold.
There were walks. There were pitching changes.
Oh, there were walks.
There were hit by pitches.
Yeah.
There were 28 combined left on base.
There was 2 errors. There was a lot There's a lot going on. The
It
bottom
never
of the
happens
strike
on an
zone
80-degree
didn't
night.
exist for a good minute.
By the way, Bill McGuire, who played baseball at Nebraska, and then how about this?
Sure.
So the umpires last night, and Bill's been around for a long time. So Bill McGuire behind the plate played at Nebraska in the 80s. He's done a lot of games, okay, for Nebraska, Creighton, and Omaha. But Bill had a rough night last night. The guy that was working first base got cut from the Omaha baseball team when Bob Harold was the head coach here.
Lord.
Look at that. It was already stacked against Evan last night, and Omaha found a way to win.
Can you imagine Will Bolt looking at the umpire list like in the pregame?
We got this.
We got him. We got him. We're going to get all the calls tonight. So I hopped out when it was 9-4. I thought, and at that point of the game, Nebraska baseball's offense looked like an absolute juggernaut. Like Tyler Stone and Max Budenbach were just absolutely raking the ball all over the park. Like they were taking.
They were up 9-4.
They were up 9-4.
They were stroke man.
They were pissing on the ball. I mean, they were absolutely
not
just
literally
killing it. And I go, okay.
Not like the guy in the concourse of the Brewers game the other night.
Well, he wasn't doing it on a ball. He was just doing it on the floor in front of a bunch of people.
We've all been there.
No, we haven't. No, we haven't. We haven't all been there.
Yeah.
Typically, there's a trough in front of me when I'm
You never done public urination?
No, not in a baseball stadium. Maybe in like a bush or something.
I was able to spell my name in
bush.
cursive in the snow one time.
That's pretty well, I don't know. You have a
No hands.
You have a 4
You were saying about when you left 9-4?
I left 9-4. I went on my phone. I did some like show prep, like because I needed to put together some more things in the car. And then when I was done, like just getting everything ready, I get a notification 9-8. I was like, "What the hell happened? What occurred?" Well, 3 walks happened, and then I thought about going back in to the stadium after leaving the stadium because I was like, "Well, there was no security there when you walked out." There was 0, so you could have just walked back in if you so pleased could do so. But I decided, you know what, I have to go and watch the Crown. So I went over to DJ's dugout. I had a chicken noodle soup and sat myself down at a place where I had both the baseball game and the basketball game.
They sell soup there?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Chicken noodle, pretty damn good. It was awesome.
At DJ's?
At DJ's.
It was. They're known for their chicken noodle soup. I didn't even know that was on the menu.
It was a
late night menu.
It was a $5 chicken noodle soup, and it was really good. Like it was hearty. It was nice. It soothed my throat a little bit. I had a sore throat from all the talking that I've been doing. Wow. It did. It soothed my soul. And then I was able to watch Nebraska baseball give up a 2-run homer in the 7th inning, and that did not soothe my soul as Omaha won 11-9.
They had the game on DJ's?
Yeah.
On the Summit League Network?
They had a beautiful double screen of baseball, the Crown, and then if you looked a little bit to the left, Atlanta was playing L.A., and that was a good game. Too. And then
Brian Snitker, watch him the next couple of days.
Okay, we'll do.
Word from Major League people. They're 0-7.
It is
0-7.
Well,
Bobby Cox, he's still got a few fastballs.
There have been rumors before the year began that he was going to retire.
Shohei, it was actually really cool. The end of the Crown was on when I went back home. The end of the Crown was on my right TV, and on the left TV was the Max Muncy double and the Shohei Ohtani walk-off in L.A.
They're on pace, 117. Here we come. But there is so while the Crown can be all fun and games, and you can go and basically sit wherever you would like, and maybe you end up next to Ed Cooley while he's coaching in this game. I'm here to tell you we got some controversy with the Crown. The Crown is not all rainbows and butterflies.
I thought it was.
I
thought it was fun and incredible and a great way to watch sports.
No. I'm on to Fox.
Oh,
okay. I have Fox. We're going to have some speaks because you're trying to fool us Nebraskans. And you know what? We're smart and hardy people, except for Zach, who doesn't want to watch the Crown because he don't want to have fun. So the crowd is a little bit light in the shorts, you know?
Yeah.
There's other things to do in Vegas on a Wednesday night.
There's a great Topgolf just off the strip.
And I think Fox is trying to present this as the NCAA tournament, what CBS Turner Sports does.
Oh, I think they're going to have a song at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, they will have.
Oh, no.
They
are not going to have a
I'm so watching Saturday just for this.
No. They will have. So it is called The Crowning Achievement, and it is sung by Wayne Newton. I'm serious. You got to stay tuned on Sunday to watch it.
What is DePaul's one crowning achievement going to be?
Well, remember, you have 68 teams who play in the men's tournament, and not everybody gets into it. So it doesn't mean you have to include DePaul. You include 15 other teams. But here's the thing. So they're trying to be like the NCAA tournament in the way they present it. they're also mimicking CBS from this standpoint. 1 week from today, you're going to be watching the Masters, and what are you going to hear? Birds. You know what they're doing at Fox? Because the crowd is so light and quiet.
They're piping in
They
noise.
are piping in sneakers.
Oh, God.
That is
crazy. They are piping in sneaker noise at the Crown.
It's like fake fans.
So it became like white
2020.
noise at one point to me while I was watching the game. Like I wasn't really paying attention to it in terms of the squeaking, everything like that. And then I saw some tweets that people were claiming that players were not moving. And
Cale Jacobson, no, it was on an inbound play, and nobody had moved yet because they had not started the play. And there was and literally nobody, the 10 guys on the floor were not moving, and there was sneaker noise. They are piping in sneaker noise.
Why?
And it's squeaky, and it also sounds like the floor is hollow.
What? Why sneaker noise? Like why?
Because there's no noise in the building.
But it was so obnoxious. It was an obnoxious amount of sneaker noise.
Have you not watched the Masters? The birds. The birds.
Can I be honest with you?
You never watched the Masters?
You hate birds? I have watched the Masters. I just think they're birds. I just think there are a lot of birds in Augusta. I'm just kind of sitting down.
It'd be a poll question.
And I hear them
there
chirping,
birds in Augusta?
and I don't really care. And the guy just comes back. He swings through. You hear mashed potatoes radiate through the screen, and you're like, "How close to that?" That's what they scream whenever anyone hits. A lot of they hit the ball. Mashed potato.
Not the patrons.
I only yelled that at Luby's in Texas.
That's your world playing at the Budweiser Open.
Yeah,
this is the Masters, but they are piping in sneaker noise, and I don't know who created the soundtrack for them. No, you guys.
It's
you guys are
obnoxious.
gonna
I believe you. I'm going to watch Saturday just for this.
You were totally right. No one was moving, and the sneaker noise was coming through the screen, and I could not believe it.
I think there needs to be a deep dive on this to expose that sneaker noise has been inserted. Now, I don't recall, during the portion that we came back playing college basketball at the end, 2020 into 2021, and we had limited crowds, if Fox was putting in fake crowd noise along with sneaker noise. This may be a new development when Fox presents a game. Because usually, you can tell that it was piped in and probably not in Gus's head.
Oh, no way.
Because he would have probably said something. But listen, if you were not watching it and you had it on and you were in another room, you would have thought that it was a horse race the entire game. Guys going up the floor. Because it was nothing
like
but
the
sneaker
80s
noise.
Denver Nuggets.
Yeah. And then Gus would jump in and he would say something about corn and soybeans, and we'd move on to the next
They're
thing.
playing for money. $50,000. Burko Buchanan gel.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Dollar. He sounded like he was out of energy at some points. Like
Who, Gus?
Yeah. So
Many people are in Vegas
at
after
some
that.
point, he just seemed like he was really tired, and it was a long night at the blackjack table.
Gus got a free trip to Vegas, man. He hadn't done any prep for those two teams. I mean, but at least, you know what? He checked the bingo card of what you're supposed to do when you broadcast a Nebraska sporting event that is not football.
What is that?
You talk about corn and soybeans.
Shout out corn and soybeans.
Andrew Morgan's going to go back to North Dakota, corn and soybeans. Okay, so it made a lot of people in Nebraska happy.
Yeah.
And then, because a lot of people aren't happy with Gus Johnson, because Gus Johnson has this long streak of covering Nebraska football where Nebraska has lost. Last night,
there's reasons for that.
Streak is out. First time, Happer and I were talking, first time we think that Gus Johnson has broadcast a Nebraska sporting event that they've won since 2012.
Really?
And it was a basketball game. So Gus also hit the other thing that warms the cockle of the Nebraska fan.
Talked about football.
Him and Jim Jackson. I still call him Jimmy, but
I still think it was Jimmy Jackson.
They get into a discussion about Nebraska football.
Yeah.
And Dylan Ryle. He mispronounces his last name. And then he talks about his dad playing for his Lions. And then, Jim Jackson doesn't know much about Nebraska football. So he starts talking about Ohio State.
Yeah.
And then Gus chimes in.
They're world
Jim
famous.
Jim Jackson goes, does he have any wide receivers? And he goes, well, you can buy them. And I'm like, we have checked all the check marks of Gus, who mispronounces names.
Yeah.
Didn't do much prep. I mean, it was like the full experience. That's why this is fun. We need more fun in sports. Watching the Crown and Nebraska winning is fun.
It wasn't a full
just fun.
It wasn't a full fire fest, but it was funny. It was funny fest. That's what we call it. It was just a funny bone fest of mid basketball some really good moments, some really bad moments, some very just non-interested announcers who rather talk about the money and cut to the just I love how much they're into the gambling in Vegas. Like, I love how
They have
every
for some
single
time.
cut back to the commercial is a dice spinning, or it's like the roulette wheel is going, or it's the cards are being put down, or you're at a nightclub. Like,
Look what
they had
did to
so
my
many
hand,
different.
man.
They had so many different B-roll. Like, I feel like they sat everybody down in a room and they go, Vegas, give me a word. And they go, strippers. All right, we got it. Vegas, give me a word. Roulette. All right, we got it. Like, that's what they did. It was great. I mean, it puts a smile on your face. Crown, it makes you
Have
happy.
I changed your opinion? Because Monday you were like, no, I'm into this. This is,
No,
if they
I've been
lose,
happy.
I'm going to break it down. Okay.
Oh, I'm still breaking it down. I still have notes.
He's buying
I
3
still-
T-shirts.
I still
Why?
have my notes app.
Why? You told me the other day, you go, hey, this is important for momentum.
I think in a way,
I think the best players that are going to play in this are not going to be here next year.
I think it's, and if they won, I told you that if they had lost the first game, that would have been like, damn, like, what are we doing here? But if they had won the whole tournament, there would have been, and I'll keep saying it, a little, not a lot, a little momentum, because you end the year on a high note. The coaching staff feels pretty good about themselves. And hey, Cale Jacobson started the game yesterday and played 37 minutes and was pretty damn good. And like, that's some positivity
Should
there
he
in
go into the
itself.
portal to see what his worth is on the free agent market off of the Crown?
Can we just have nice things for
Go
a
get
second?
that bag.
Can we just have fun? Let's not
We
talk
thought
about
that.
Let's not talk about
Hey,
the portal.
what if they say, hey, Cale, I know you might be looking around because you want playing time next year. What if we just gave you all the $50K we just won? All right.
Hey, it's for Cale. That's for Cale, guys.
Lineup brought to you by the Rooferys of John Higgins, Weather Guard, Sarah Baker Hansen, Steve Sipple, Brian Edwards. That's coming your way on a Thursday edition of Gary and Matt with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, because it's 1620 and we are a very petty radio station with petty hosts, this is some spring football content for you.
Love spring football. What else is there to talk about?
It is Nebraska, after all.
Depends on who you talk to.
I don't think there's anything more relevant to talk about, in my opinion.
Phil
So
Steele
punters today.
Phil Steele has come out with his schedule, strength of schedule rankings. Nebraska's opponents from last year in the 2025 season, they combined in 2024 to go 76-76. Nebraska will play the 91st toughest schedule in college football this upcoming year. Based on last year's record, there are 136 teams that play Division I football. So that must mean 9-3. Oh. That must mean the joy of sport.
Is that your analysis from that?
That is my quick takeaway.
Just immediately. 9-3, 10-2, should be in the college football playoff picture.
You were much earlier because he said in the first half, how did Gus Johnson pronounce the Turkish Nightmare's last name?
So
how did it sound?
I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't have any audio in the first half, so I don't know how he pronounced his last name. I listened to the second half. I can tell you his first name was Berka.
Oh,
Berka.
Did he change it when he got to Vegas?
Bearclaw. I don't know.
Berka.
He's the first. Here's the thing. Can I just tell you something? Can I just tell you something right now? All you have to do is just look up. This is what I do. If I don't, because I mess up with names, and it's one of my things that I have to get better at. But if there's a player's name that I don't know, I go on YouTube and I look up. I type in the person's name and I go highlights, right? And if you just everybody's got highlights nowadays. Everybody has highlights. So if you just type in that name and you click the first video, in the first 10 seconds, you will hear an announcer say that person's name. And you'll be like, okay, generally that's probably where we're in the ballpark. That's the ballpark. You don't know if that's right for sure. Or you know this, little inside baseball here, if you ever announce games, you have a media guide, right? And there are some names that in the media guide will give you a phonetic outline. Hey, phonetically, this is how you're supposed to say this person's name. It takes 2 seconds to just look at a roster, be like, I'm going to have a tough time doing that one. Let me try and find the phonetic guide. And if nothing else fails, Gary, you know this trick too. Same thing with you, Jimmy. You go to the home radio announcer and you go, hey,
how the hell you say this?
How do you say this name? Yeah. Or you go to a coach's hat. The fact that he is like a premier.
Is it LeBron or Lebron?
Announcer. No one has ever come close to Berka. No one's ever come close to saying it like that. I mean, it's Bearcay or Bearcay. Like, there's no "ka." No one's ever said "ka" the entire time.
Berkey.
So there you go. There's Gus Johnson.
I wonder the thing about Gus, and you know, Gus is getting up there in age, and we know in football that his eyesight isn't the best. Now that you have Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge doing the NBC game, and Gary Danielson is moving on after this year, and you're going to get the great Charles Davis, like all of a sudden the main Big Ten broadcast, which is Gus and Joel, I wonder if they have to start looking at Gus, because Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge make a nice combo, but they're not. That's not the number one network for Big Ten football.
Benetti's the best they have in college
Charles
football.
Davis taking over Gary Danielson is going to elevate CBS.
Yeah,
but Fox is where everything goes. I wonder if we're getting like a couple years from Gus saying, you know what, it's time to retire. He has had an incredible career, and I wish that he would let him do maybe like one March Madness game.
A weekend.
But I think we're probably in the last. We're on the back nine, and we're probably walking up the fairway of 18 right now with Gus. But he did no prep whatsoever for that game last night.
It's like, is he even invested anymore? Because no one's questioning the entertainment.
No,
nobody's questioning.
And he's
the
voice. He's a wonderful person, and he has a huge heart, and he's always engaging with young broadcasters or other people whenever you see him, like in Lincoln. But
I've taken a picture.
There just comes a time, and last time I was like, hey, I got a free trip out to Vegas, and we're rolling out all of our top announcers. So they've had Kevin, they've had Brando, and they got Gus. So they're treating it like, you know, we're going to put our best out there.
Sure.
But I don't know. Gus was kind of, you know, I wanted a little bit more. Now Jim Jackson is great.
Sure.
But Gus was like, all right, you know what? Here we go.
You wanted 96 Gus.
I did not get one thing I wanted this year. At least I did not catch it if it happened. I don't think it happened, but I really wanted Gus to announce a Wisconsin basketball game because I wanted to hear him say John Tanjay's name. You know, I wanted to hear him go Tanjay to the rack. Like I wanted to hear that, or Tanjay's on fire. I wanted that. I wanted that call. Unfortunately, I did not get that call. But it's still like, in all honesty, like I wonder if it's a couple years from Gus. He's just such a well-known, like he's almost a celebrity in his own right. Like he's superseded the role of like announcer to the point where it's like he's not an announcer, he's Gus Johnson. So he is, now, do I think that sometimes Gus announces as if people are there to listen to him? Yes. I think that sometimes Gus thinks that he's the show and not the actual product, and that kind of annoys me. But he is Gus. Everybody is, Big Ten football at this point, whether you like it or not. Gus Johnson is synonymous with it, and I think it's kind of just his decision of whether or not, when he wants to hang it up.
By the way, one quick thing here on Gus and the Fox Big Nude Kickoff won't be coming to Lincoln.
Ooh.
There are murmurs because Illinois, Indiana play that day. It has more playoff implications, at least from the beginning of the year, which actually could be a good thing. Nebraska, Michigan, there are people that have are able to like express their opinion that want that game to be 2:30.
I would like it to be a night game. You can make that night game. That would be
2:30.
If it's not, I want Big Noon Kickoff because I do want the national attention. But if
you want the national attention, you want game day. People don't watch the Fox show.
That's a good point.
But here's the thing. Ironically, that weekend, which is kind of a light weekend for college football when Michigan plays in Lincoln, you know what? You know where game day will be?
Probably Texas.
Insert SEC city here?
No. It has a Nebraska connection.
Oh.
That is North Carolina at Central Florida.
Wow.
So game day will be in Orlando for Belichick against Scott Frost.
Hell,
that's great.
yes.
That's great.
You
That's
just put me in a better mood. Who needs the sun?
Do.
But if you're Fox, and when they go through the draft, the Illinois Indiana game is pretty significant.
Oh, absolutely. And I do think you could.
But you do have two brands that would drive some pretty good ratings.
There's an interesting take with the Illinois Indiana game that those aren't two brands, but they are very good at football, and so maybe that in itself is attractive that you can celebrate that and then do the whole transfer portal, NIL, new age college football. Look at how great these two teams are. Either or. I mean, I would, if it's not Big Noon, please make it a night game because that would be absolutely electric. And they're going to need it in terms of energy. The energy will be there regardless, but if it's a night game, man, it'll be incredible.
I'd be curious. I love the draft that they do for college football TV networks. I would love to see, I've always said this, they should televise it because it'd be fascinating to see kind of what networks think of your program.
It'd be informational. It'd be very informational.
Scott Docterman has written many stories on The Athletic of in-depth, but I wish they would televise it. And, like some people that are relegated to the Big Ten Network all the time, would be like, okay, I see our place. But then like the haggling or the suspense of, ooh, okay, what is going to be? Because Fox always picks Michigan, Ohio State #1.
Yeah.
It's the smartest thing they do. I mean, that game is the banger. It makes them a ton of money just as a standalone. But then like after how it all falls in, how close like this year Michigan, Nebraska would be to being selected because it's like, okay, there's some intrigue. There's Underwood, there's Raiola, there's Michigan, Nebraska, there's Brands. Is Nebraska back? Is Michigan back after a little bit of a downfall? But there are people that I think would like that at 2:30. So we have a couple of those will be announced about 7 weeks from now. We should start. About 6 weeks from now we should start getting a kickoff time or 2. All right, let's finish the hour with our 6 a.m., buddy. We wake up with Andrew. He wakes up with us. Good morning.
True.
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Good.
I will say, announcer, I will watch a game like if the announcer is worth the entertainment.
True.
I don't think an announcer can be too involved in the game with his personality. Matthew.
I think Gus has gotten to that point, but continue.
No, but Gus is a national treasure. And how do you spell Bearcat? How do you spell his name?
I think it's Berke.
So, okay, the cat
What?
You can kind of
hold on.
You're hearing the same thing I am.
Hey, where do you get cat?
Yeah, it's not bear cat.
I thought you just said that's what he said.
Bear cuh. It was cuh.
It was a cuh.
Cuh.
Well, I mean, you can.
Cuh.
That's not that far off.
It's bear K.
I know, but that's not that far off.
It's
mean,
pretty.
He wasn't.
Cuh and K are pretty. I mean, if we're going in the Jolly Phonics, they're pretty far apart from each other.
Let's not pick on Gus. He's an old fellow. And where did you guys fall on watching Bill Walton do games?
I was amused. He was there for the entertainment, and you knew what you were getting when you got Bill Walton. It's the same with Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
Barkley, they're going to give you once in a while something that is like, okay, but they're there for entertainment purposes.
Oh, Bill Walton was high. Most times he was on TV.
Nothing wrong with that.
Probably not alone. He just showed it a little bit more.
I loved watching it. He was funny. But I'm just saying, give Gus a break, Matt.
I don't think I was that hard. I just pointed out what he said.
I know. He's an old guy. Give him a break. We'll all get there someday.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew, thank you. Have a good day.
Walden on the weed, Berman on the Canadian aspirin. I mean, it's a tale as old as time.
Hearing him say Gus is old makes me sad. I mean, I know that's true, but damn, time flies.
First time I met Gus Johnson, I was not kind of like when I saw Patino in Providence. Like Patino isn't very big. I mean, Gus Johnson is a tiny person.
Mm-hmm.
Like he is I wouldn't say he's not frail, but there isn't much to Gus Johnson. Okay, there's my takeaway. Here is Eric. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning. Hey, after watching The Crown the last couple games for Nebraska, I'm kind of curious if the whole Cale Jacobson's kind of opened HOIBERG's eyes a little bit as far as the type of player that he could target going forward. I just kind of knowing like our NIL situation with basketball. I'm curious if he'd maybe take a longer look at the Cale Jacobsons of the world in Nebraska, like the Nebraska-born players, and not to say they'd go on the cheap, but maybe kind of angle towards, like the Bryson Balls of the world.
Yeah.
The guys that kind of slipped out that you could probably get for less and develop and, eventually, pay the money to. But, watching Cale, like he kind of reminds me of, not to slight him, but like kind of a less talented HOIBERG on the floor. Like, he's built the same and he kind of does some of the same things. I could see like maybe a little culture shift with the program, like maybe take a look at some of the Nebraska kids, just knowing, we're not going to be, a top NIL school in the Big Ten. I don't think, but just kind of taking a look at the Nebraska kids more. Oh yeah. And then one thing with the announcers, I think Fox is kind of missing the boat. Just as a Lincoln guy, I'd really like to see Kugler and Baugh do a lot more games.
Yep.
Being bias aside, I think those two guys together are two of the best that Fox has, and I think Nick deserves it. And I mean, Kugler his record speaks for itself, but I'd take those two over Jackson and the other guy anytime. So
I'm with you, E. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Cale Jacobson was walked on, so comes from Ashland Greenwood. You have a Lincoln product that redshirted this year. He's referring to Bryson Ball, who was the player of the year in the state this year, who changed his commitment yesterday from South Dakota State because he committed to Hendo. Hendo goes to Drake, so now Bryson's going to go to Drake and play. And there are a couple of other interesting Nebraska high school products that have gone elsewhere. They're in the portal. Jaden Booth from Westside, who went Division II and just was a bucket getter. And then Jaden Dawson, who had a great year over at Loyola, is from Omaha Central. He's in the portal. Watch Creighton for him. But I think Cale Jacobson, and he makes hustle plays. That's what he does, and he's always done. It's kind of a weird, not a weird dynamic, but Cale Jacobson's minutes have increased and more high leverage situations he's playing in because Sam Hoiberg hasn't played well.
Yeah.
Like Sam Hoiberg had kind of he had double figures against Iowa. He wasn't very good shooting last night. Like his productivity has fallen off. And it seems like as that's fallen off, Cale Jacobson has picked up the role.
That, and I think that defenses are realizing that Sam Hoiberg is an incredible off-the-ball defender and makes things difficult when he's not the primary ball defender. But there were times even yesterday and throughout the end of the Big Ten season where teams kind of realized, look, you can give all the effort you can, but we're just bigger than you, and we're going to take shots over you.
Yeah, or they stopped guarding him on the other end of the floor.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
All right, hour of the books, another hour to go. We'll talk about what happened at Tal Anderson. Omaha beat Nebraska in baseball 11-9 last night. And by the way, good morning. Local coaches that are headed to Epley to go to the Final Four in San Antonio. Have fun at the Alamo.
Have fun in San Antonio.
And the Riverwalk. Chalk in the Riverwalk could be the greatest Final Four ever. Mm-hmm. Or will it be succeeded by the Crown at 12:30 on Saturday? People are discussing right now in the chat room.
A lot of people are talking about it.
We're back with more after this. All right. Because of the soon-to-be international airport that we have at Epley, 12:30 Saturday Central Time in Vegas. It's 10:30 in the morning at T-Mobile.
Oh, I can smell the hangover.
So I'm looking at some flights here.
Okay, yeah, pitch it to me.
Oh.
If I were to make the trip, because it is my birthday. The Crown
Oh, yeah?
Championship
This is true.
is on my birthday. I have not talked to the parents about a birthday gift. My father, also likes to bet on the ponies. If I said, "Hey, Dad, can you half sponsor a Vegas trip?" He might be like, "All right, son, have a good time."
What about Dad and Matt?
So I could
do some.
I could do that
yeah.
too.
Probably cheaper to fly from Chicago.
Okay.
So there are a lot of flights Friday because you're going to want to leave tomorrow. The final isn't until 3:30 on Sunday, but you're not just going out there for a day. You're going to go out there for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
There is a flight that would be a red eye coming back from Vegas, would not get back to Omaha until 8:30 Monday morning. It's only about $680 on American.
You come straight here afterwards. Oh yeah.
$680 on American. American's a good airline.
On a day's notice to fly to Vegas to watch Nebraska and Boise State at least one game.
You should do it because we need a 9 o'clock guest for Monday.
Nebraska get hammered on Saturday, so you're out there for a game and entertainment. Boise State ain't messing around. They're 26-10. They scored 100 yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They got to hammer Nebraska, but that's okay. They got to the semis.
You got me excited.
And they made some. No. Be excited.
Okay.
Be excited. Boise State is like Boise State. You're not going to look at Nebraska and go, "Yeah, they got screwed on Selection Sunday." Look at Boise State and go,
Yeah, they were a part of the slew of groups who were like, really, North Carolina over us? You're absolutely right.
So
them in Indiana.
Would not surprise me, because if you look at a guy that is sitting on the bench with the coaches as a fan, don't you think I want to be that guy? And remember, there'll probably be less people there this weekend because the game's going to start at 10:30 on Saturday morning. You're like, you know what? Hell yeah, I got some miles. Let's go to Vegas. You can do it. And it's not, not everybody can go, hey, 680 is no big deal. But it is doable if you want to go to Vegas to watch basketball on Saturday. And you know what? And then you got the Final Four. So you just walk out of T-Mobile and you go to New York or wherever, and you're like, you know what? Let's go. Let's watch the Final Four. And then whatever you want to do on Sunday. Maybe if your team's not playing, you come back to the T-Mobile. And if Nebraska is not playing, there will be nobody there. You just, you know what? You just plop down wherever you want to plop down.
Okay. So
he's thinking about it.
648 is the round trip, right? To Vegas, back to Omaha. The current ticket prices to get in to the it is at the T-Mobile Arena.
Big arena.
It's $50 just to get in, all lower bowl.
But they
$50.
So boots on the ground from somebody that went to the game last night. They happen to live in that area.
Yeah.
They're paying.
They said you could probably just kind of hang out and somebody would give you some tickets.
Really?
They weren't sure if they were from the Crown or not, but it's not like they are pushing people away from the ticket office that might be handing out tickets.
Sure.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Don't leave here. Take these.
So good morning to Greg, a listener who went to the game last night, and he said the whole night. Well, I'll just read the
go
text.
ahead.
He said the whole night experience, including a Nebraska win, cost me $6.
Hey, in these times, that's
the
less
Crown,
than
baby.
eggs.
Welcome to the Crown.
Just embrace what it is. It's funny. The Crown is funny.
What do you think? Okay, so with the potential to end up being in the area to sit next to,
you can buy a ticket and sit wherever you want.
No, I know, but
they're encouraging you.
What do you think? Like the court side ticket,
I'm probably going for $150.
It was $220.
Okay, that's ridiculous. That's not funny. Funny is letting anybody just sit wherever they want.
That is funny. So it's $50 if you're going on Vivid Seats to get in, and then you have to, how much are you going to have at the blackjack table? That also has to go into your mind. Probably I would say a $300 to $400 budget is appropriate. Take that money you win, go to Huff and Puff, play some slots, have a good time.
I don't think I've ever been to that in Vegas.
Yeah.
Where is Huff and Puff?
No, Huff
They
and
have
Puff is a slot machine. Is a very, very popular slot machine that a lot of people like to play. Where it's like it's a pig based slot machine.
So that's what it's called.
Huff and Puff. Well, there's Huff and Puff. There's Huff and More Puff, and there's Huff and Even More Puff.
Oh, sequels.
So it gets.
So does the pig get bigger?
No, there's a wheel. So like in Huff and Puff, there's no wheel. In Huff and More Puff, there is a wheel. And Huff and Even More Puff,
Two
there's
wheels?
2 wheels.
Oh!
Yeah.
Let's drop the
It gets
S-bomb.
more and more volatile. And then there's like 40 other different versions that you can like play that you just lose your money on. It is like one of the most popular machines because it's so
Are we sure we want him to
entertaining,
go to Vegas?
But it takes your money. Like it is known to like just not like pay out well at all. But people love to play it.
Matt will go to Vegas numerous times in a lifetime. His first time there, that town will eat him up and spit him out.
Within
but
the first
then he'll
2
learn,
hours.
and then he'll go back and he'll have more fun.
I'll tell you something.
That's what happens.
I'm a good budget guy. I'm a good when it comes to like crunching the numbers.
I said that the first time.
I'm a pretty good budget guy. The best part about me in a casino is I know that once I get to 80% of my money, right? That I've added on 80% of my money, I'm done. I'm not looking to go there going from 150 to 1,000, right? I'm going from 150 to 280.
They don't allow you to wallow in your misery and sit on a curb on Tropicana Boulevard.
Okay. I'll take that with me. I'll put that down on my notes app.
That's what I've heard.
So you've been told.
So good luck to anybody that is going to go to the Crown, and I bless you. So not everything is all joy in Nebraska sports.
Oh, do we have to?
Yeah, we have to because there are people that are irate. So Nebraska baseball lost last night. Good win by Omaha. They rallied. Drew Borner, who Millard West product, by the way, Millard West, big game today. Millard West, Papio South, high school baseball at 4:30 out at the new turf Papio South field. But hits a home run in the 7th inning against Jay-Sean Unger, who was making his debut as a Nebraska pitcher. Nebraska was up 9-4 at one point last night, and then the rest of the night, they only had 5 hits, didn't score another run. And Omaha came back and won. Kind of surprisingly, because when it was 9-4, I was like, okay, we might get out of here early because this might be run ruled.
Sure.
Or it's teetering where it's going to be like an 11-4, just ugly game. So Omaha coming back, they're like the great tease. They've now won 4 in a row, and you can see it, but they're battling some injuries. But they're playing much better. And I said this after the Creighton-Nebraska game. I said, is this more Creighton or Nebraska? And I said, more Creighton because I think Creighton's a good team. Last night is more Nebraska, and Nebraska's in trouble. So they've had a kind of like a come to Jesus offensive, this is what we're going to do different. And the offense picked up. Now all of a sudden, while the bats and they're scoring runs, the pitching has gone south.
Yeah.
And I know it's midweek and it's not your main starters, but they were walking people, they were hitting people. This Nebraska baseball, they have no floor, they have no ceiling, they are squatters. That's what they are in 2025.
It's a great way of
They are a frustrating team who is capable, but really they're not capable because I don't think they have great leadership that is not individuals that are getting paid to run the program. I think this team is without a compass. I think they are lost. I think they are inconsistent, and they remind me so much, and Nebraska baseball fans will remember, there was some hype going into the 2022 season off of what they did in 2021. It seems like this has now become a trend. Like you have a really good year and you draw people in, and then the next year you lay an egg. So in 2022, that was a team that you were like, okay, they're going to be pretty good. They finished 23-30, did not make it to Omaha, but there's a lot of things I remember in 2022 that you watch this team and go, okay, they can't throw strikes. Then also, they just make some of the most mind-boggling decisions, and they're lost right now. And it's not a pretty sight. And then it's amplified even more when midweek games against in-state competition, you've lost 5 straight to Creighton and Omaha combined, and you're 3-9 in your last 12. So they're out in the middle of the ocean without an oar, without a motor, without a lifeboat, anything like this. They're just out there, and it's frustrating, man. They should be so much better than they are, but it's 2022 all over again, and I don't know how much leadership they have. I don't know how much piss and vinegar they have.
We're getting to the point where it's their identity is that they have no identity.
True.
That you don't know, that you can roll a dice and, hey, this team can score 9 runs in 4 innings and look absolutely incredible, and Max Budenbach is putting a ball halfway up the light pole, and you're like, man, this offense is clicking. And then you go the next 5 innings with, what'd you say, 5 hits, 6 hits?
5 hits.
5 hits. Nothing to account for.
9 on.
No momentum. And, I think yesterday's loss gets amplified because of who they played and, Omaha being in state and the fact that they're a Summit League opponent. Sans opponent aside, when you have 16 hits and your opponent has 8 hits, when you have 16 and your opponent has 8 and you end up losing a game, that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And when you walk 12 batters and you hit 3 of them and you commit 2 errors, it's almost as if you're like, what are we doing here? And it's just,
they're sloppy. It's just they're erratic. They're the team there's a team that's lost, and they also look like a team that the voices are in a lot of guys' heads. Like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to be. And the guys in those situations that thrive, like, just eliminate all the distractions. Like, I think that's what happened to Max Butenbach. He had a great summer. Was in the lineup to begin the year. People started to get in his head. All of a sudden, he was lost. Now it looks like he's a lot more comfortable in the last 2 weeks at the plate. Just said, screw everyone else. Stop talking to me. I got to do me.
Sure.
But I don't know, man. They're going to go into this weekend against Rutgers, and I mean, it'll make sense that Nebraska wins the series, but 2022 all over again.
When you can't create consistency throughout a season, that happens with teams where, okay, man, like, maybe you just weren't as good as we thought because it's one game you're doing this and one game you're doing that. You're not able to put it all together, and maybe you were overrated coming into the year. But when they can't put it together, like when there's no consistency within a 9-inning game, like not just the season, just in a 9-inning game, you can go from so cold to so hot or so hot to so cold on a moment's notice. It really does. I start to question the mental fortitude of the team where, oh my God, when Tyler Stone is hitting singles and Budenbach is having a great game, and their Brumball looks good and Sanderson looks good, and they're really hitting the ball like, oh my God, we're incredible. And then as soon as adversity hits and as soon as the defense behind, or the pitching in front of them can't get it done, as soon as that causes them to turn off the momentum that they had at the plate. When we could talk about Nebraska and you could say, well, it's the midweek. They're not using their regular pitchers. This isn't like, the bullpen you typically see. Neither is Omaha. Like, Omaha isn't using their regular. It's midweek just as well for them. It's midweek just as well for Creighton. So it's like the excuses that you use for Nebraska in terms of these situations, the same team over on the other side they're losing to are going through the same things. I mean, it's just absolutely inexcusable that a team not only can be so inconsistent within a season, but within a game as well.
I'll give you a prime example. So last night, and again, Omaha has battled it. I mean, Omaha's now 9-17, but they're playing better. So they have won 4 in a row. And they got, on their ledger, they have a win against Kansas State, Kansas, Nebraska, and LSU. I mean, 3 of those 4 wins are really, really good when you look at the RPI. And Omaha's battled some injuries, but they're finding their way offensively. So Borner hits the 2-run homer in the bottom of the 7th and puts Omaha up 11-9. In a situation where Jayshon Unger, this is the frustrating thing about Nebraska baseball. So they bring in Unger last night, and that's his debut. Mm-hmm. And he throws hard. I mean, the one thing, guys coming out of the pen do throw hard, not necessarily accurate. But he gets the first 2 guys out, and then what happens? He walks the next guy. And then what happens? He gives up a home run. Drew Borner, who pride of Millard West, had not hit a home run since last summer. Didn't even hit a home run in fall ball. Hadn't hit a home run all year. That's kind of Nebraska baseball. So it's 11-9. But then Nebraska, to their credit, they load the bases in the top of the 8th inning. And they have the top of the order up. So you're like, okay.
Yeah.
This is a chance. We're going to come back, down 2 runs. Bases are loaded. Going to pull this game out. Or the game, it was, from the 4th inning on, it was crazy. It was back and forth. Luke Gaynor's on the mound for Omaha. What does he do? Strikes out the leadoff hitter. And bases are left loaded top of the 8th. And then quietly in the 9th, Nebraska goes 3 up, 3 down, and Omaha wins 11-9. I mean, that's the nutshell of the season that is for Nebraska baseball right now. And they're what, 12 and 16 now?
12 and 17.
12 and 17
is now the record.
Yeah.
And from a fan perspective, I don't think there's anything more frustrating from sitting down and listening to a team or watching a team, not knowing what you're going to expect. And it's almost at this point, you can't take too many results seriously from a fan perspective, because if, yesterday they lose to Omaha. And
so you're saying people should not be upset about last night?
No, I'm saying, I'm not saying that. People should absolutely.
So you're saying, but you're saying don't take things seriously?
Well, no. What I mean by it's hard to take a result seriously is when they beat a really, really good team, you're like, oh, okay, this is probably just a flash in the pan, because they've beaten really, really good teams, and then they can't go ahead and beat teams that, on the RPI or the statistics are worse than them. You cannot take that seriously. You can't be like, oh my God, we have momentum. And at the same time, it's like you go ahead and they lose to Omaha, but as easily this team can go and beat top teams because they've done that. They've beaten Vanderbilt. They beat an Oregon State. And it makes the loss that you had yesterday even more frustrating, because that they have the ability to close out those games, to win those games, to continue the streaks that they had, that from the games that they won before. And that just makes it just boils your blood even more that this team is just going to be known for their inconsistency. And the fact that when there are big moments and there are big outs to get and there are big hits to be had, it just seems like these last 2 games, the other team gets them and they don't. And this was a team that had a ton of experience and had arms in the bullpen and was ranked to begin the season. And you would think that the experience they had would prepare them for those moments, would give them the experience they need to come through big, because some of these guys have come through in those moments in the past and they haven't. It's just a hard baseball team to watch.
I'll tell you a guy who looks lost, and he didn't start last night. He pinch hit in the 8th inning. Gabe Swanson. So coming into this year, Gabe Swanson's supposed to be a banger. I mean, you remember how he ended last year and then came back to school. He's now hitting 182, 2 homers and 16 RBIs. It's a rough watch, and they're fighting it right now. And this month of April is not off to a good start. I've said I'll reassess after the first 15 days because they got 10 games, which are against pretty good competition. They're 0-2, and they don't look any different. It's just that's where they are, and it just keeps. You do some research.
Yeah,
2022. It's 2022 all over again with Nebraska baseball.
Yeah.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. Sarah Baker Hansen join us at the top of the hour. Steve Sipple a little bit later. Brian Edwards as well. We'll join the party on a Tuesday with all of you. Gary and Matt with Jimmy. 1620 The Zone. All right, you're looking for a place that can help you with your roofing or siding, and you're wondering, okay, where do I turn? Because there are some sketchy places out there. Well, there's only one place to turn. They are the MVPs in Omaha when it comes to roofing. Focused on you, restoration, gutters, siding, roofing systems, and making sure that you're satisfied. It is Moose Roofing. Pat Moose, former Nebraska walk-on at tight end, the pride of Pierce. Yes, that's right, Moose Roofing. They are the MVPs in Omaha. This is what happens. When they do residential roofing, roof repair service, commercial roofing, they get to know you first. Their consultants come out and they walk you through the process. They get to know your needs. They don't just look at the roof and go, yeah, there's a shingle off there. We got to put in a whole new roof. They are reputable. They have a great reputation, and they don't want to ruin it. And they're going to take care of you. So, the most valuable asset is your home. You need to make sure that your roof is ready. Your roof is fixed. Spring storms are on the way, and you don't want to be caught with a leaky roof, bad window, and the next thing you know, you're in trouble. So turn to Moose Roofing today. You can find them online at mooseroofing.com. They'll answer all your questions, and then you can set up an inspection, and they'll walk you through everything. They are working from Southwest Iowa all the way to Lincoln today, and they'll work for you to make sure that they fortify your roof before the next major storm occurs. Look them up online because the Moose News Roofing, mooseroofing.com. Hey, great to see a lot of people at the Nebraska-Omaha baseball game last night. Frankie Fiddler back in town.
Yeah, I saw that picture. That was awesome.
Saw him on TV the other day.
Tony Osborne was there too.
So he looks different. He got a haircut right when the Michigan State season ended. And so he came up to the press box last night. And I said, "Do you just drop out of school?" Because to be honest,
yeah.
When guys, the season is over in basketball and they're going into the portal or they're going to get ready for the NBA, even though, they're only like 6 weeks away from, finishing the semester, maybe even graduating. A lot of guys just bolt. They're just like, I'm good. I'm not going to go to class anymore. And so I said, and Frankie's a really good student. Like he was all academic Summit League. I said, "Do you just drop out of school?" I'm like, "Nah, I got to go back next week."
Oh, okay.
So maybe he'll get ready for the NBA draft or to play overseas or whatever.
Is he he's going to go to in-person classes? Like I feel like Michigan State, with how popular basketball is, that maybe the basketball team might be more online.
Yeah, I don't know. He said he had to go back to class.
Okay, well, good for Frankie. Good for doing that. Kyrie Irving talked about that. Now Kyrie Irving different from Frankie Fiddler, but like all those first round picks are absolutely right. They barely went to class to begin with, and then as soon as the season was over, they just left campus.
So Justin Patton, who went into the NBA draft from Creighton in his second year because he redshirted his first year, once he got to the second semester and he knew he was already going to leave, he the going to class was like foreign to him. Like he would periodically go to class.
It'd be a great surprise. Hey, nice to see you.
There's, sometimes, if you're out, you're like, peace, I'm out. A lot of guys would make a dumb decision and they're just like, I'm not going to go to school anymore.
Sure. Well, it's like, Cardale Jones said.
Didn't come here to play school.
Some of those guys. Now, I will say this. That's not advice for everybody, okay? Some of you, if I were a coach, I'd be like, let me tell you something right now. Some of you did come here to play school, right? Some of you did. I've seen your jump shot, right? I've seen your athletic ability. You came here to play school. Yeah. Maybe one or two of you, maybe not.
Okay, so you think with Nebraska, because Nebraska's the spring break is over, they're back. You think those guys in Vegas are doing any schoolwork?
They got it. Well, let me tell you something right now, though, about the Nebraska education. And
I sure as hell wouldn't.
And it's dependent on what college they're in. But if they're in the College of Journalism, which I know that at least one of them is, okay, and I wouldn't be surprised if more of them are, they could do their classes online. They're like, I was not an athlete and I had too many online classes. Okay. Like there was one semester where I had 5 classes, 15 credits, and to do my media job, I took 3 online classes. Okay. So I was only going to 2 in-person classes as a student with no other responsibility than just doing a part-time job.
If I was a coach, I would be there. I would not want my starting quarterback to do in-person classes.
No, absolutely.
I'd want him to do online. And I think I know Dylan because mutual friend of ours was his instructor last semester.
Yes.
I think he's got more online, which makes sense.
He should.
He's there to play football. Okay. Until you get to 9 wins and are not on the playoff,
which you
focus
said is this
on
year.
Football. You know what? When you win, you can focus on school as well. But until we win, just that school thing. Just stay eligible.
Can I tell you something right now? That's a guy that didn't come there to play school. All right. If there's anyone. No, I'm not talking about him going to. I don't know if he's going to class or not. I'm just talking from
him to get the whole experience.
Going to the NFL or trying to be pro. I don't think Dylan Raiola is studying to be an insurance agent. I don't think, no offense to insurance agents or anything, but I think that guy's trying to be an NFL quarterback. Right?
Before I read some of these emails in the Equitable Bank inbox, I just want to remind people that there is joy in sport and Nebraska basketball is still playing. Okay, so with that,
this is incredible.
Let's open up the Equitable Bank inbox.
This is incredible because when they first entered the Crown, you said they shouldn't be in it. They shouldn't be doing it. The season should just end. It should be over. And now the Crown has come and you are happy. You're enjoying it.
You know what? Because here's the thing. So we're about ready to embark on a incredible Final Four field. And people are tinkling all over college basketball about the NIL and the portal.
I know.
We need to find more joy in sport. That's now my resolution. Already into the 4th month of the year is to find more joy in sport. Okay? Because that's going to There are 2 really, really good games coming up on Saturday in San Antonio. But we will and I'm going to say we because I'm going to group us with media. We will go because we think the appeal of talking college basketball isn't the X's and O's and the Cooper Flags and the Criers and the Brooms and the Claytons. It is NIL portal, no Cinderellas, what it's doing for this sport. Okay? So on the college basketball side, you could make a case that the appeal of college basketball is driving more people to only pay attention to the sport in March.
Yeah.
And that's the only month they pay attention, which sucks. But there are many, 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 many people that are out there. I hope we don't get that in college football, even though we have some of the same issues, kind of these same issues, that the appeal of college football will get lost. I feel like more with college basketball, it's starting to get lost. So my goal is to bring back the joy of sport. So that's why the Crown is funny to me. We had a game last night where a guy dressed in a Husker shirt is sitting next to the Georgetown coach.
That is a legendary
I think I have
picture.
that same shirt.
Now,
legendary
you see that in the NBA where they have the courtside seats and they run kind of right into the bench, but you very rarely see that in college. But that's how they have it set up. And the dude's not like next to the bench for Georgetown. He was actually coach. There were like two coaches, and then he was sitting there, and then Ed Cooley sat down next to him. They asked him at halftime. They said, "Hey, we can relocate you because the 4 seats next to the Nebraska bench were wide open." That's funny to me. That's what the Crown is. The Crown should not take itself seriously, but it's the joy of sport. That's why I like the Crown.
Do you think Ed sat down to him and he goes, "Hey, what play do you think I should run? 1, 3, or 5?"
I would at that point.
And actually, because Ed Cooley seems like that guy is a super personable guy, wouldn't surprise me.
He's like, hey, who gives a damn?
Hey, what's up?
What's
arm around
Can
him
you
and
imagine
talk.
if they had a huddle? He goes, "Hey, dude, come here.
Come on.
He goes, "Hey, what do you see?"
Hey, any other time? This just shows you how meaningful the Crown is. Any other time? Because that guy could have been sitting there grabbing their play calls.
Yeah.
And like he could have been Nebraska's version of Connor Stallions.
Yeah.
But instead
Maybe
they were
he
like,
was.
"Hey, the guy's just chilling."
Ed Cooley's like, "We need a fresh set of eyes."
So I'm wondering if somebody from the tournament, not Georgetown, said, "Hey, you gotta go
If
sit
Ed
down."
Cooley sat down next to him, do you think he gave a damn?
It stood out on
It's so
TV because
funny.
the guy's wearing a Nebraska shirt and he's sitting with the Georgetown coaching staff. Unless there was like an assistant coach that was like, "Screw this, I'm out for the year. I'm going to root for Nebraska." But that's what the Crown is. The Crown shouldn't take itself seriously. If they want to pipe in sneaker noise, okay.
Yeah.
But just go all off that this is going to be a sloppy, just off the wall game, and the Cale Jacobsons of the world are going to get to shine. Let's just do that. So I like the joy, I like the fun, but then there's the not fun that happened to Tal Anderson if you're GBR.
Yeah.
So whenever we have this discussion now about a Nebraska team on the men's side that is coming up short, the inbox just gets flooded, and I get your mailbox is 95% full. You must fix this in your storage settings, which is true.
Ed looks at the guy and goes, "Hey, you've been watching this team all year. How do I guard number 3? What do I do there?" He goes, "Hey, I didn't watch any film on this. Should number 9? Is he a 3-point shooter? Should he be taken? We should leave him open. Okay, cool.
Hey,
sounds good."
We didn't have the mullet guy on the scouting report. He comes off the bench and he's playing great.
He's like, "Who's 31?" The fan goes, "I have no clue. I have no idea who Jacobson. I haven't seen him all year."
Ed goes, "You know what?
Neither have I.
We're based in D.C., but man, we could use a corn and soybean guy like Andrew Morgan." John writes in, "Do men's and women's athletics in Nebraska use the same sports psychologist? If not, the men's side might need to take a look at who they are using because they can't handle any adversity at all."
I think they do. Pretty sure they do. I don't know.
Chris says, "Walk 12 batters. Holy hell, that is 10-year-old BS."
Well, Carson Jassa hit 3 of them.
Yeah, now all of a sudden he's gone south.
That was not good.
He was the midweek guy and was pitching well, and his last 2 outings haven't gone so well.
So he hit. Now the first batter he hit, it might have hit. He might have hit off the bat, and they had to review it. The second one, he clearly dunked him, like he got him. But then they went back on the inside fastball again for the 3rd time after he couldn't do it the first 2. And they what do you think is going to happen when you go back to a pitch the guy hasn't been able to execute? Didn't execute it for a 3rd time. It was tough.
They were throwing strikes. They weren't hitting. Now they're hitting, and they're not throwing strikes. Zach writes in, "Everything you're saying about Nebraska baseball applies to basketball and football over the last decade." Old man Doug says, "Is Will Bolton in trouble if the season continues like this?"
No, not this year.
But you have a year where you draw people in and you have success and you get to the tournament, and then it's 21-22, and now it's 24-25, where you haven't been able to stack.
You're absolutely
just
right.
Back-to-back years. Also, another email. UNL is a women's athletics school. Men's athletics are trash. Mark Manning would like to have a word with you, sir.
Yeah, track and field did well too, and men's gymnastics had a pretty good year as well. For keeping score.
By the way, I want to add, because I want to tell people we're making an announcement on the show this morning.
Hmm.
Didn't know that.
Surrounding a athletic team at Nebraska. So yesterday, I went down the rabbit hole of Nebraska bowling.
All right.
Who we are into April madness.
We are
with Nebraska
ready.
bowling.
They start today, correct?
Yes.
ESPNU.
So I got an email yesterday.
Oh.
From Paul Klempa. Paul Klempa is the bowling coach at
Hell
Nebraska.
Yeah. Hell
Now
yeah.
he is in his 6th year.
Shout out,
He
coach.
graduated from he graduated from Nebraska in the mid-90s, and he got a degree in psychology. But he's a great bowler.
Okay.
Like when you're talking about 300s and 800 series, like Paul Klempa is your guy.
Sure.
So he's been involved with Nebraska bowling for a long time. So I see the email and I'm like, uh-oh. Because he references this in this email that, so when people do talk about bowling, sometimes they will make jokes about it. But we were talking about it was a dynasty.
You were not
Yeah.
making. Let me tell you something right now. I was being a little tongue in cheek, but you did an incredible job of actually breaking down like the history and what's on the line, who they're playing. They
kick serious
can I
bowling
tell you
ass.
something right now? That wasn't like a 2-minute dump, because I've done that sometimes. Like, oh, hey, they're playing. That was like a 9-minute bowling segment that was done.
We're a wagon. We're a wagon.
We are a wagon.
So he sent the email while they were on the way to Pittsburgh for the regionals. Okay?
Yes.
I mean, now it's go time for Nebraska bowling. I mean, big deal. So at 9 a.m. this morning, the first ball will be rolled between Kutztown and Fayetteville State.
Most
and
hated rivals.
the winner will take on Nebraska.
Yes.
Okay?
Tomorrow.
We are now, this show is the official Nebraska bowling show.
Yes.
So if we make it to the NCAA championships next week.
We going to Pittsburgh?
Hell yes.
It's in Las Vegas.
Oh.
It's at the Suncoast Bowling Center,
There you
April
go.
11th and 12th. We will have Coach Klempa on next week if
Nice.
their season continues. So he sent an email, and at first I was like, oh, because, sometimes you get emails from people that aren't real happy with something you've said on the air.
I'm on the bandwagon.
And I read it, and I'm like, thank you, Coach. So thank you for taking time, because he doesn't need to. They're getting ready for the most important part of their season.
Yes.
But we are now the official show of Nebraska bowling. So if you would like to set up an open doors with one of the bowlers, we will facilitate that. But we're going to have Coach Klempa on next week, because I got a feeling they are going to make it to Vegas.
First roll. Yeah, you said today they play the winner tomorrow at 8 a.m. Central Time. So we will be live on the air while
usually
they're
we are.
going. So we will. Let's see. It's on Bowl TV. Is this free? Is this Bowl TV
Probably easier to watch for me than the Royals. but-
free to watch? Because we can give live updates during the show tomorrow while they're going against the winner of the bowl the mega match today. Correct? Isn't there a mega match?
It is.
We are the official. I have to see if I have my 2021 bowling national championship T-shirt. I will wear that to.
I need a bowling hoodie.
I don't know if I left it at home or if I packed it with me on my trek to Omaha, but if I have it, I will definitely wear it tomorrow.
Something we were talking about yesterday, and we both been there. I don't think it's like open to the public.
The bowling,
but where Nebraska bowling is pretty impressive.
It's
like they put some money into like making it a really, really nice venue for Nebraska bowling, but I don't think they encourage people to like stop by, do they?
I haven't met any. When I go there, we used to go there on the weekends. It would be pretty crowded. Like we wouldn't be like the only people there. There would be a good slew of people who are bowling at that alley. And let me tell you something right now,
because it's in the Union.
It's in the
over
East
on
Campus,
East Campus Union.
Campus Union. and students bowl for free. You just have to bring your student ID. You put it down. They write you in. You're free to bowl. Like, it's very well kept. It's very well manicured. It's incredibly clean. The bowling balls are of high quality. Not a joke. I am not being facetious right now at all. They are like, this isn't like your mom and pop. Like, they've been open for 40 years. Like, these are nice bowling balls that you're using. Like, it can get competitive. I haven't seen anyone, like people that you wouldn't notice that aren't students who are bowling there, but it is it's a really nice facility, and they've done a great job of actually getting students to go there and like enjoy their weekend and have a very good time. And like, I'll say this, like, there is some good marketing done around campus in terms of like posters and t-shirts, in terms of like,
I know the bowler, you're right. The bowlers individually, they do promote like when they do have, we call them matches at home.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the appropriate name to say for bowling.
No, I think it's matches. I'm pretty sure it's matches, but people are aware of the bowling program because number one, the bowling program wants to be aware of it. And number two, they are so damn good. I mean, this is the time of year. I feel like all 4 years of my college experience where I was like, oh, we're in the NCAA tournament for bowling. Go bowling.
When we get Coach Klemp on, we need to ask him because they only have one like invitational at home. Like they go all over the country. Like their roster is like from east to west, north to south. But yeah, they only have one invitational at home. I know they only have 6 lanes, right?
Yeah, is it still 6 lanes? It's when I was there last, it was 6 lanes. It's not overly big where I don't think you could get like a massive group there to like all come. But like, what, in my opinion, and I've said this a lot, like if you build it, they will come in terms of Nebraska athletics, right? Like if you have a winning program, people will find a way.
What would you say? They built Haymarket Park about 25 years ago.
Well,
any day now.
What I mean about winning, when you build a winning program, people will be interested. If they win the NCAA championships this year, I think they could probably get, like, they could boost up to the point, hey, we're defending national champions. This is a big deal. We haven't done something like this. Come to the bowling event. We'll give out free stuff.
Gary, you know me somewhat well. Got to admit, after you saying this, I am happy.
There you go. Joy of sport is back because of Nebraska bowling and Coach Klempa. So good luck to the ladies tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we'll keep you updated. But we are now the official show of Nebraska bowling. And also a big shout out to Mayor Mike, who put us on to the bracket.
Shout out Mayor Mike.
It's going on my resume.
We are Gary and Matt's Happy Sports Show. That's from here on out. That's what we're known as.
That's why we have the crown.
To be happy.
We'll workshop that name, see what people
think. And we need to get the guy that was sitting on the
care.
bench last night.
We need to. Can we get an interview
with
him?
So
does anyone know this man?
I was following.
Chris?
So people were taking screenshots, and then someone would be like, "Oh, this is such and such." I'm not sure who it is. Some people said it was the Utah guy, but I don't think it was. I think it was just a random guy that might be a Nebraska fan.
We have to find him, and we have to find out if Ed Cooley said something to him.
All right, SBH coming up at the top of the hour. Your favorite foodie, Steve Sipple, a little bit later. God, wouldn't that have been fantastic if that was Sip? Brian Edwards as well, and wouldn't it surprise me? Brian Edwards loves Vegas. He would do something like that. His beloved Gators are in the Final Four. We'll discuss all of that as we roll till 10 on a Thursday on 1620 The Zone.
I don't know if I can gamble on bowling. I'm sure you can. I'll find out. I'll ask the people who run Underdog. But baseball is officially back, and you can make every game day more exciting with Underdog, just like I have. Why? Because my team's not very good, although Josh Hotson's team is much worse. Anyway, do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog. So to play, choose whether a player goes higher and lower and what other stats, strikeouts, home runs, hits, and more. Get a little inside baseball. It's the Astros. I'm taking the under. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from, and millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Their app has over 100K 5-star reviews and millions of players. That's a lot of numbers. So how do you do it? Let's just get to the point. First, I'll tell you this week on Underdog. Well, I might have to look at bowling now, but we're going to look at baseball and the Final Four. But it's constant. It's every day, and I've had success with it. You can too. Download the Underdog app. Sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on all the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE and claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
All right, some tweets here. This is from Kev Coos, who has been pretty, I don't know, harsh is the word, but disappointed in Nebraska baseball.
As you should be. As you should be.
Baseball losing to Omaha and Creighton also eliminates the basketball excuse strategy of sending Chattel out to beg for more NIL money.
Well, I'm not following.
Yeah, I may be in a column or something.
Yeah.
I would actually really like Fred just to say, hey, this is what our pool of money is. But, because somebody dropped yesterday that Indiana's pool of money for DeVries is $10 million this year.
Jeez.
It is clear Nebraska does not get its money's worth in any men's sport at the moment. The teams like in basketball that are still playing and they have had success, much more success historically than Nebraska has had. How you evaluate the portal and how you spend your money. I brought this scenario up yesterday, and I think Nebraska will change this year. Price Sanford is not coming, cheap, but it did not break the bank. Is Nebraska broke the bank for two guys on this year's roster instead of what they did the year before in spreading it out over multiple guys.
Yeah.
A Mass to a Williams to take care of Gary, make sure Casey is happy. 1 to 2. Where you think those guys can change the world, or spread it out over 5. I'm telling you, 1 to 2 this year did not change the world. So it's evaluating the portal and then smart how you attack it with the funds that you have.
It's last season you saw a lot of college basketball coaches who are just coaches, who are just X's and O's guys, had to turn into general managers. They had to turn into not only just evaluating talent and trying to convince with words and tradition to come to your program, but that you had to put a value on that talent, a numeric dollar on that talent. I don't know too many coaches who've had to do that before. And even, Fred Hoiberg, right? Yeah, he was with the Chicago Bulls, but that wasn't his job there either. That was Gar Pax or, Garn Pax's job, right? To go ahead and pay those guys certain money. And I'm sure that Fred had, some leeway. Well, for being honest, I don't know how much.
I don't think he had any.
I don't think he did. I don't think.
Honestly.
Yeah, and I see going back to it, and I was following the team very closely. I don't think he did because they never built the team.
No.
They never. Let me tell you something about Fred Hoy, and I know this is maybe not relevant, but they never built the team for Fred in Chicago. They never did him any favors in the way they did that. So I don't really count what Fred did in Chicago, and I really think he got a rotten deal. But regardless of that, last season there's a reason why there were a lot of instances where there was money badly spent throughout the entirety of the country because you were asking coaches to be GMs. And there are now college basketball programs who said, all right, we're going to avoid that now. We are not going to do that. We're going to go and hire actual GMs to do that. But you hope that Fred, from maybe some of the mistakes he made last year, can learn from that and have more experience.
Yeah.
And for a lot of coaches, I'm sure last year was a valuable learning experience.
I think Nebraska, when it comes to the portal, and remember, you got to have success too. I mean, you can have money, but you also have the success to draw people.
Yes.
Yes. That they throw a wide net out there. I'll use Creighton as an example. I thought Nick Graves was a really good pickup yesterday from Charlotte. You essentially look at Creighton has wanted Owen Freeman. They got him. They wanted Nick Graves. They got him. Two guys that when they got on campus, they committed. Nebraska has done this thing in the portal, and I don't know if this is Fred always asking for the sale, is Nebraska will get visits, but they don't get the commitment.
Yeah.
They let guys Freeman and Graves came to Omaha to visit Creighton, and they didn't leave without saying yes. And I'm sure Creighton's approach is much different than Nebraska. I don't know what Fred's approach is because they will get guys to Lincoln. They just don't get them to say yes. Even certain guys that they've offered a nice bag to. So you have to win, okay? For a program that's really never won, you have to win, even if you have a suitcase full of cash. So Fred navigating that whole world where it is transactional compared to a guy will come and sit out a year, and I've got a history at Iowa State where I can show you.
Yeah.
He's navigating all that. They can't miss. They can't afford to have a Braxton Mia on the 25-26 roster.
And you mentioned approach. a big problem is that you can bring a recruit in and everything like that and then bring them in and show them Pinnacle Bank Arena and try and convince them. But if they have a program that's been to Final Fours and Elite Eights, regardless of what the sell is, they're going to be interested to go and see what they got.
But there's all I keep going back to this. At what point do you sell Fred Hoiberg? That's friggin' Fred Hoiberg.
Yeah.
It's the mayor of Iowa State. It's a guy that was in the NBA, a guy coached in the NBA. I mean,
Is that-
when is that the selling point?
Could it be wearing off?
All right. Sarah Baker Hansen will join us next. That's a question you can ask to her. Her hubby's a diehard Nebraska basketball fan. We will chat with our favorite foodie in our bi-weekly visit. Steve Sipple coming up a little bit later. You know, Sip's a big fan of Nebraska basketball.
I always love it when he talks about Nebraska basketball. It's just
he must be miserable that they won last night.
We'll find out. We will find out.
Brian Edwards as well on 1620 The Zone. All right, it is our bi-weekly chat with our favorite foodie, Sarah Baker Hansen, who joins us now on this Thursday morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Hey, quick question. And I'm on their website because I know the finalist for the James Baird Award was announced yesterday.
That's right.
Are we going to be going to Chicago?
We are.
Nice.
That's awesome. Have fun. That's incredible.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be going to Chicago, but Chef David Utterback is going to be going to Chicago.
Okay. So he is on the category of best chef in the Midwest. Right. Okay.
Best chef Midwest. Yeah.
So this has happened before. How do we get him over the top?
I think there's been a lot of great stories in the past year or the past couple of years written about David. And, I think he just continues to do something on the highest levels that I don't think any other chef, certainly not in Nebraska, and I don't think across our region of the chefs in the Midwest are doing. If you follow him on social media, you see that he is consistently pushing it to a new level. The other week I saw a post on the Yoshitomo Sushi Instagram that was Dave getting his hands on the #1 marked tuna at the fish auction that he gets fish from Japan. So then this is like a really competitive Tokyo fish market, right? And so he got the #1 tuna, and he thinks that it could possibly be the first time a whole #1 tuna has ever come to the United States, and it came to Omaha, Nebraska.
Wow. That is so...
And so, I mean, it's just so cool. It's so cool. And I think it just shows, that he's not just settling down and, taking it easy over there in Benson. He's allowing diners in Omaha to literally try the best tuna in the world.
I went
in our neighborhood.
So I went to one of his restaurants, Sakurabana, for the first time over the weekend. And I will say this, the mackerel quality, the tuna quality, and the salmon quality were all, I've never had anything like that before. They were so incredibly fresh, so incredibly tasty. I remember you talked about it one of the first times you came on here. Thank you for the recommendation. It was an absolutely wonderful sushi experience. And I will say once again, I got the big platter, with the different nigiri and the different rolls. It was not only absolutely worth it from a taste standpoint, but from a expense standpoint, worth it completely. I mean, it was, I know that he's got some other restaurants as well, but that was an incredible dining experience. And I have so much respect for him in that regard.
That's great. I'm so glad you went. I have to also say one more thing that's really funny about Dave. So he also has his own personal Instagram, and I spend a lot of time on Instagram. It's my busiest social site. And last night, after the James Beard finalists were announced, he posted a picture of a bottle of champagne and a plate of pizza rolls, and that was his own personal celebration for being named a finalist yet again. So let's hope he wins it. I really think he deserves it, and it would be such a cool moment, not just for him, but also for Omaha.
Oh, and Tim over at the Boiler Room has been a finalist as well. In a town that you've told the stories of the chefs, because there are some that will work under David or under Tim, and then they go and they open their own place, or they go and they're on a different venture. How is the competition in town for chefs? Like, is it a industry in this city where everybody shares ideas and they get along, or is it really, really competitive where it's like sometimes it gets uncomfortable?
I think what the chefs would say, that it used to be very competitive, that it used to be that, it was a little more cutthroat. And I think that's true also kind of the restaurant industry. And I think that a lot of them would say that it has changed to be more of everybody else kind of lifting each other up. And I think, when you look at some of the newer restaurants that have opened, like, for example, Ben Mades, who runs Okeron in Benson, and his brother Tim recently opening Dolomiti, the pizza joint down in North Downtown. I mean, they've worked together for years. They've kind of each done their own thing. They've worked in kind of different areas and different businesses, but ultimately, two brothers who are really supporting each other's culinary ventures in town. And I think that's really cool. And I think there's another great story happening at Yoshitomo where David Utterback has kind of his second in command sushi chef, Matthew, who now is running most of the time. He will be the person cooking at the number one spot at the sushi counter. And he started his own chef's choice sushi omakase tasting at a lower price point. But Dave's giving him that opportunity to learn and grow in the space that they share both as chefs. And I think that's so fantastic. Like, the idea of the community being supportive to other chefs' success, I think really is, where we are at this moment in Omaha.
I know you wrote an incredible article today, and I know we'll get to that in a second, but I do want to ask you, just what would it mean for this city if it had a chef win the James Beard Award?
I think it would, you go to other cities like Minneapolis, Kansas City, other cities that I think we as Omahans kind of identify our city being on the same level as that city. Recently we all saw the story that now we're a city of over 1 million people. Like, I feel like Omahans who are part of the culinary scene or diners who support these restaurants feel like Omaha should have a James Beard Award. Like, we are an important enough city in the culinary destinations throughout the Midwest to be at that level, and that our chefs here deserve one. And so I think we would all feel very proud. I know I would. And like, this has been a long time coming, and that more people have their eyes on Omaha as a place that they want to visit, and that they should really go eat at our incredible restaurants when visitors are here, and that people in Omaha will continue to support. So hopefully, once we get our first, we'll start making our way toward our second.
Yeah. And you've also done a great job of your travels of letting people know how wonderful the options are in Omaha. You wrote today, as Matt was alluding to, on Flatwater Free Press, our steak town continues. I am laughing at this because I was not familiar with Brother Sebastian's, and the first time I went about 10 years ago was during prom season. And so it's an extremely popular prom place.
Sure.
And we are, and you drive, as you get off of Pacific, you're like, okay, there's Big Fred's, okay, Bagel Bin. Are we driving into a neighborhood? Wait a minute, are we going to a steakhouse in a strip mall? And so then we park, and we're walking to the front, and I can hear the Gregorian chants. And I'm like, what is this? And then we open the door, and people are dressed at Brother Sebastian's like they're monks. And I'm like, what is going on? I love that you've told the story in this review, and also the wonderful food. It is such a quirky place. But
it really is.
It's like, I don't know if you say, well, that's ours, it's Omaha.
Sure.
But it is one of the more unique quality steakhouses I've ever been to.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I didn't really know the story of Brother Sebastian's. Like, I knew a little bit about it. I knew, obviously, it was a themed restaurant, and the theme is monastery. I knew that it had great steaks because in 2013, as part of another series that I wrote called Food Prowl, we named it the best steak in Omaha. So I was curious to see kind of what it's like, 12 years later. And I knew that people love it. And so I was just excited to get back to it. And it turned out to be an even more engaging and wonderfully weird and quirky story than I could have even predicted, I think. But, I usually don't start stories like in the past, because I like to usually start us in the present. But when I learned that the original idea for Brother Sebastian which, we've kind of covered a little bit of what it is, was sketched out on the back of a pizza box by a man who had an idea to open a themed monastery steakhouse with a big wine list. I was like, how can I not start here?
Yeah.
Because this is really, where this place started. It was really, and the current owner, Scott Lurie, who bought the restaurant 2 years ago, was so generous with his time and the sharing of these stories. But basically, I thought Brother Sebastian's might have, first been like a chain restaurant, or because there was a trend in the 1970s of like themed restaurants.
Uh-huh.
And it opened in 1977. And, Scott, the first quote in the story is basically Scott saying that, no, this wasn't a chain. This was Lauren's imagination. It all came from a vision that he had. And then when it burned down in 1996, both Scott and Lauren together reimagined it once again on their own. And I think it's, I do think it is kind of an Omaha restaurant legend at this point. It's almost 50 years old.
Yeah. So I'm looking in not only do you do a great job of, writing about the cocktails and the steaks and what the standards are, right? But I love the pictures that you always take here. And
well, these pictures here are taken by photographer Josh Fu.
Yes.
Who I've been working with on the photos. And I'll give you an Easter egg in the picture of the perfect Manhattan. That's my hand.
Okay. I could kind of tell.
Hey, I knew that was your hand because your hubby has good taste.
but Josh came in, and together, we walked through the space, and he takes the portrait of Scott, which is just great. And so, I think it's fun together to work on capturing kind of what this space looks like, because it is so unusual.
Well, so I was going to say, it just looks like the first picture in your article. I look at it and I feel warm. Like there's a warmth that comes over me. Like, can you talk about kind of the ambience and the decor and how, it plays into this experience at Brother Sebastian's?
Yeah, well, one of the things about Brother Sebastian's that I think a lot of people love about it and that contributes to that kind of warm feeling, I think it's two things. Number one, you see in that place in almost a picture in almost every room, I believe every room, maybe except for the salad bar, has a fireplace. So there are fireplaces throughout the space. And the second thing that Scott and I talked about is that it is dark in Brother Sebastian. There is no harsh light. Everything is dimly, kind of softly, warmly lit. You feel like, when you used to watch those Barbara Walters interviews in the 80s and there would be like a soft filter over it. That's how you look when you go to Brother Sebastian's, because it's dark and kind of, meant to be romantic and just kind of moody. And I feel like that's certainly when you go to more, modern restaurants, I guess you could say, that isn't often the vibe. And this is a vibe that I personally absolutely love. I think more restaurants should be Barbara Walters soft filter dark, because everyone likes to feel like they're in a lighting situation that makes them look good. Nobody wants to be seated under a spotlight. And I think some restaurants are too bright, but Brother Sebastian's does not have that problem.
Okay, so this is where we're going to differ a little bit, because there are great steakhouses in this town, but so my first introduction to like the Drover is like, and I went there for lunch. That was my first one.
Yeah.
I'm like, why is it so dark in here? Then I went to Jericho's and I'm like, why is it dark in here? And then I went to Brother Sebastian's. I'm like, wow, you can't even see. And my first thought was they're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
So, but that's got to be, but then I've gone to some of the newer steakhouses in this town, and it's not as dark. It's a little bit brighter. It's not like a spotlight.
Yeah.
So those that like from Jericho's to the Drover to Brother Sebastian's, which and Cassio's isn't super dark, but that must have been back in the day. That was the vibe. Is steakhouses are a little bit darker for the mood and the date kind of night thing.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think you go to 801 Chop House. It's not bright in there. It's pretty dim in there. I think you can go to, some of the newer steakhouses certainly, have more windows to let
And
in
that's probably a
natural light.
difference.
But I have also seen, coverings over windows at steakhouses, not just in Omaha, but in a lot of cities that are, meant to keep it moody in there. And I think it is kind of we've been having this ongoing conversation about what makes a steakhouse or how do you define a steakhouse. And I think weirdly, maybe lighting is one of the things that does set a steakhouse apart a little bit.
So and I do know this just kind of a niche thing. I know that in bright light with steak, right, it can be made to look less red, right? It looks a little bit more darker in light. And so that's part of the reason why steakhouses don't have a ton of light, is because they want the meat to look as good as possible, because the exposure to that could change how you view it, which could change your experience. And so
I want to look as good as possible while I eat my steak. So that's why I like it.
So let's get down to the nitty gritty, right? I'm looking at your rankings, and you have a 5. Well, you don't do stars. You do 5 pieces of ribeye, right?
Yeah,
so you have a full 5 staker on the filet mignon medium rare. Just tell me what separates this filet at Brother Sebastian's from the ones that you've had across the city.
Right. Well, this is our 3rd month, so I've had 2.
Okay.
And I would say that, we have a lot more to eat, but I'm going to say that the filet at Brother Sebastian's is, if you are a person like me who enjoys a filet over, a ribeye or a strip or other cuts of beef, you should definitely go try the 12-ounce filet at Brother Sebastian's, which they call the St. Thomas cut. It is, and I don't need a 12-ounce filet. Let's just say I'm not going to eat the whole thing, but I've never really seen it so far, that large of a cut. And I just was really intrigued to try it. And so the waiter told me that because it's very thick, that when I ordered it medium rare, it was going to come out closer to rare. And so if I wanted it medium rare, I needed to order it differently, which I thought was very good service. Like, the fact that this server knew exactly, what I was ordering, had given this talk clearly to a lot of different diners, but I went ahead. And I will say that it was so good. Juicy, perfectly cooked. He was right. It was closer to rare in the center. And I think one of the things that we saw, particularly at both Jericho's and the Committee Chop House, is that the steak was on the edge of being what I think some diners would consider salty. And I've heard diners in conversation talk to me about how they think some steakhouses, the steak is overly salty. I like a salty piece of beef. I want it to be like salted to the edge of its life. And then this steak, I would say, wasn't as salty, but it was perfectly seasoned. So seasoned, but not overly salty, is how I described it. And just the most, and I think you can see this in the very first picture, just the most satisfying set of grill marks, like literally so perfect that it almost looks fake, or like a piece of beef that you would see on a commercial, except it's right there in front of you. And I think you can see just in the picture how beautiful this piece of meat is. And just the extra kind of care that goes into it. And I didn't hesitate to give it the full 5 steak out of 5, because I thought it was that good. And interestingly, Matthew is the one who orders the ribeye, and he agreed that the filet, in this case, it was the first time we had seen a filet that was able to outperform a ribeye. So that was pretty cool. And I thought that was really worth recognizing for them.
And people that know you will kind of laugh at this. Little butting of heads on the salad bar?
Yes, there was a small salad bar disagreement. I grew up in Omaha. Matthew grew up in South Central Nebraska in Red Cloud. So we've both been to steakhouses our whole lives. We've both eaten at a lot of salad bars, and I just have a real affinity. And this is no surprise. Like you said, I've written a lot about the salad bar at the Drover and how it's my favorite salad bar of any salad bar. In my mind, like, no salad bar can beat it. And Matthew said he thought it was better than the Drover salad bar, and I was like, "Oh my God, how can you even say that?" But it is a very good salad bar. It's quite a bit larger than the salad bar at Drover. It does not have my favorite aspect of the salad bar at the Drover, which is the metal plate, the cold metal plate, which I think really elevates the experience. Yeah. And of course, a spoiler alert, I'll be writing about that later this year at some point.
Yes. Hey, as always, we appreciate this. A great review. Brother Sebastian's. It's up on flatwaterfreepress.org. As always, thank you. You have anything in the works here that people can look forward to besides the next trip on Steaktown, USA?
More steak. We're going to have more steak in between the next Steaktown USA. So really all I'm working on is steak.
Nice.
There could be worse fate.
There's a lot of people that would be jealous. Sarah, as always, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Sarah Baker Hansen. Brother Sebastian's. Had a great experience once I got seated and was like looking around and everybody's dressed as a monk. And I'm like, what is going on?
That's one heck of an experience, especially if you don't anticipate it. You're like, oh, I'm just going to go to this pretty famous, everybody says a lot of good things about this place. You walk in and see that. I'm sure that's quite a culture shock.
By the way, if you go to Legacy Chop House, so Daryl Lisey, who people recognize the name, former Nebraska football player, prep guy, who was at the Drover and then left to go open up out at 170th and Center, Legacy Chop House. They have a salad bar, a large salad bar that has all of, I've seen this at the Drover, but the cold plates, very much, that's a big thing. Jeff writes in, he said, bring back dark restaurants. Some of my favorite newer ones, Koji, Dolomiti, are way too bright. Let the food and the people have a seductive vibe.
It is a science thing. Like when you have too much light on a steak, it does turn a different color. And then so now it doesn't spoil the meat or anything like that. It's just more of a view type of deal. And so that's why I learned this from a YouTube channel, Adam Ragusa on YouTube. Mm-hmm. He's a great steak guy. And so that's why you don't have natural light windows in steakhouses, because they don't want that natural light to come in and affect the view of your steak. And so that's why steakhouses are typically just darker. So you have that kind of, visual, and you have that view. So it's also too, though, it's a science thing, but it also has turned into kind of like a culture thing, like you talk about. Like steakhouses are synonymous with just being a little bit too dark, and you have to use the flashlight on the menu to see what you're trying to order sometimes.
The first time I went to the Drover, we got seated near the front, in the front part before you get to the salad bar.
Yeah.
It was so dark in there, and it was like 12:30, and I'm like, whoa, everybody raves about it. It is for the locals, and then of course when everybody comes in town for the College World Series, I got to go to the Drover. And I was like, it's so dark in here. I can't see the menu.
Yeah, that's the steakhouse experience.
I was like, whoa.
But we are getting to the point where it's more socially acceptable to pull out the phone and do the flashlight at the table. More and more people are doing it, so you don't have to feel ashamed.
We have, I'm not saying we can't quit him, but we got to talk about Trev Alberts. Because Trev Alberts is attached to Nebraska again this morning. We'll tell you what that is. As we roll till 10, Steve Sipple will join us in about 45 minutes. Sip likes a bright steakhouse.
Does he?
Yeah. He wants
full body deodorant, bright steakhouses, and the Crown. Steve Sipple's favorite things.
He's told me about he's like, you know what? I went to Misty's in Havelock, and it's too dark in there. I couldn't see. What was I supposed to do? I'm like, you know what? Enjoy the Misty's experience.
Yeah, enjoy your steak, Steve.
All right, it's Gary, Matt, and Jimmy. We're back with more after this on 1620 The Zone. Oh, sorry. Welcome back in. Gary and Matt with Jimmy. 1620 The Zone.
So nice. You had to say it twice.
Yes. The first Thursday in April, a week from today, will be the Masters. 3 weeks from today will be the NFL Draft.
Georgia.
No. Do not ruin that for me.
No, that's a different song. They sing it. I'm singing like a love song.
No, just don't.
Georgia.
Hey, no.
I'm going karaoke tomorrow.
Thank God.
Couple of friends.
Feel bad for people in Omaha.
Little birthday celebration.
Going to Winchester's?
I have no clue where I'm going. I was just told, hey, Matt, come to my place, and then we're going to karaoke at this time. So there we go. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants when it comes to my birthday weekend.
I think you should go to, I hope you guys here. So over on Q, 70th and Q, over basically Ralston, Winchester's Bar and Grill.
Here, let me find
I'm pretty
it.
sure they have Friday night karaoke.
Oh, you're gonna
We are going to Smash Park.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We're
For
doing
karaoke?
For karaoke.
There's other things I would go to Smash Park to do. All the games they have out there.
What do they have in Smash Park?
They have basically every adult game that you want.
Hell yeah.
They have pickleball courts.
Oh,
They've
cool.
got bags. It's like
all the games that the grown-ups play.
It's in an adult Dave and Buster's.
You call it bags too?
Am I not supposed to?
No,
I call a teacher a bag once.
A lot of
I call when you spin with your vehicle. I call it a donut. People around here call it a cookie.
No,
you know what? I call it soda.
What?
You call it pop.
It is.
I had a discussion.
Team
Hey,
soda for life.
Steve King from Coca-Cola last night was at the baseball game, and someone from the East Coast goes, "Pop or soda?" And he goes, "Oh, it's always pop." And I'm like, "Come on, Steve,
No. Well,
it's soda."
For me growing up, it was Coke. We just said,
Well,
can I get a Coke?
That's a Texas
being around
thing,
people that are from Atlanta,
Yeah.
everything is a Coke.
What
Yeah,
flavor
Could be-
Coke you want?
Could be a water.
What kind of Coke?
I mean, yeah, like what kind of Coke you want?
Like for me, I go, can I get a Coke? And they're like, oh, we have Pepsi. I'm like, oh, that's fine. But like, no matter what, like,
no,
it's
no,
just
no, no.
soda is Coke.
Stop. That are some of the worst words out of a server's mouth. Is sorry we don't have Coke. We have Pepsi. Would that be okay?
Except
no,
at
it is
Pizza
not.
Hut
It-
when we were kids.
Hey, water juice is never okay.
I think it's worse when they say we have Sierra Mist. Hell no.
I don't drink Sierra
I don't
Mist.
do Sierra Mist either.
Our good friend, we have a Trev Alberts friend update.
Good friend.
Old friend alert.
Old friend.
Oh no.
I like Trev too.
So I think I relayed this on air. Trev followed Omaha men's basketball very closely. Now, he was not here when Chris Crutchfield was hired, but he was here in the transition to Division I, and he sent a very nice text about how him and his wife were watching Omaha.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Hey, congratulations to you. I know you've been doing it for a while, and I'm happy." So he wasn't like just blowing smoke. He was very appreciative.
Yes.
But Trev is back in the news, and he might be involved in Nebraska. So yesterday, as Buzz Williams goes to Maryland, Chris Beard from Ole Miss was the number one guy. But now there is a story that is out that Chris Beard's reps contacted Texas A&M before the season was over and used Texas A&M to get more money at Ole Miss. So, ironically, he made a smart move to stay at Ole Miss, and he just got, a 6-year deal yesterday?
6-year deal, yeah.
Okay, so Texas A&M is searching for a new basketball coach. You have to understand, the Colt, there is more money than God, and that's kind of Trev alluded to that in a conversation we had.
And they'll tell you he's an Aggie alum.
He didn't say more money from God, but he said
there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money.
He told me it this way. Like at Nebraska, if he needed to raise $5 million like that, it would probably be about 10 to 15 calls. He said at Texas A&M, if we need $5 million, he goes, I could make 2 calls and we'd have $5 million. He says just the difference.
Yeah.
So
can't beat that.
The one thing about money at A&M, and I think this rubbed Buzz the wrong way, is football is king in College Station. They have some really good other sports, but football begins the day and ends the day, and football is receiving a lot of attention and a lot of money. And I don't know what their breakdown is going to be, but Texas A&M has to find a way to be successful in football, first and foremost. It does them no good to be successful in basketball. They must be successful in football, and not just, hey, we won 9 games. They need to find a way to get to Atlanta.
They got to be in the college football playoff. They have to be in the SEC championship game.
So Trev's under a lot of pressure. he's also under pressure for this. Remember, and by the way, I think Jim Schlossnagle and Kevin Willard exchanged notes on how to leave a job. Remember the College World Series?
Yeah.
Schlossnagle
I'm not
goes
going
to
anywhere.
Texas.
How dare you ask me that question?
Kevin Willard goes to Villanova. So Trev then hired someone who was on Schlossnagle's staff. Texas A&M, Jace Laviolette, who might be the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft this year, comes back. They get players that come back. Everybody's excited. Texas A&M played for the national championship here in this town in June. They're preseason number 1. You know what their record is right now?
Not very good.
They're 14-14. They're 1-8 in the SEC. They are in danger of not making the conference tournament. So
they're currently 99th, by the way, in the RPI.
Trev made that hire, and initially people were like, oh, you got to keep everybody together. It has not turned out very well. So now the heat has been turned up. They have some different leadership from when Trev got there, and now they have a basketball job that is open. Trev is not a basketball guy, but he's a guy that watches the purse strings, okay? Matt Rule was like the perfect Trev Alberts kind of guy hire, that personality. Now, when you're the football coach at Nebraska, it comes with a big price tag.
Yeah.
So we're looking for a new head coach in College Station, right? Sportsbetting.org has come out with the betting odds. Now, these are up in Vegas as well now this morning on the next Texas A&M head coach. The clubhouse leader at 3-1 odds is Porter Moser. Porter Moser's name. So if Kevin Willard had not worked out at Villanova, their next target was Porter Moser, and that's been reported by Philadelphia media. You know, he's got a deal at OU. Former Creighton basketball player.
He's still definitely working off of the resume from Loyola Chicago. Yeah. And I still don't think...
I mean, they made the tournament this year, and he's able to recruit. He had Fears, who just announced that he's going pro, but he was one of the best freshmen in the country.
And he turned the ship around. There was a moment where they were teetering and they were not going to make the tournament, and he pushed them. I mean, he willed them to get there.
Number 2 on this list, at plus 350.
That's not crazy.
Is Fred Hoiberg. Second would be Chris Jans, Scott Cross, Brad Underwood, Alan Huss from High Point, Kyle Smith, who was at Washington State, Grant
McCaslin,
who has done a great job from North Texas Tech. Greg McDermott is 12-1. And then there's Bob Ritchie, Will Wade. Why is Will Wade on here? He just got a job.
Yeah.
TJ, Drew Valentine, Luke Murray, Richard Pitino got a job, and Bucky McMillan. So Porter Moser, which makes sense.
It does, yeah.
Fred Hoiberg, 7-2 odds to be the next basketball coach at Texas A&M, which, remember, Trev didn't hire Fred, and the initial relationship between Trev and Fred was not good because Trev came in, and Trev basically had to be Doge at Nebraska when he took over.
Yeah.
I mean, he had people that were working that hadn't stepped foot in, or were getting paid on the payroll that hadn't stepped foot into North Stadium in years. Like Trev was Doge,
and
so
he's had to be that way at Texas A&M too, because they have to, with the buyout with Jimbo Fisher.
So he goes through and is starting to look at expenses, and he looked at men's basketball, and there were a lot of expenses that were happening that he was like, what? WTF? So him and Fred butted heads like initially. And then it was Trev that said Matt Abdelmassi is in a gots-to-go situation. But after that, the relationship got better. I don't know that it was ever great, but ironically, it seemed like Nebraska basketball settled down because they were meeting regularly. They were talking about roster construction, and things kind of turned around. I don't know how much credit that was to Trev, but initially it wasn't good. It was better when Trev left to go to Texas A&M. But let's be honest. If Fred Hoiberg was hired at Texas A&M off his record, the fallout would be enormous.
Massive.
So when you're doing odds like this for coaching searches, I think you're trying to connect the dots. But you got to understand, Trev didn't hire Fred. That was a Bill Moose hire. So I don't buy into this. like Chris Jans would actually, in a place where you got to battle the Colt and you kind of got to be a Buzz Williams and you got to understand that football is king and be okay with it.
Yeah.
Chris Jans would make sense because he's kind of that guy that is a DGAF guy.
And also too, he's in a position where Mississippi State also is very much concerned about football, right? I mean, football is Mississippi State's that's their program. They, much like Texas A&M, need football to be good. That's their moneymaker. And it's like another thing too, you talked about the connecting the dots. We got to remember back to the Indiana betting odds, right? Where we had the same thing where here's where the betting odds for the Indiana job. Greg McDermott was minus 200 to get that job. Darren DeVries wasn't even on that betting list. He wasn't even on the radar in terms of that. So that causes me not to buy into that. But also too, and you alluded to it, it's yes, Trev Alberts and Fred Hoiberg worked together. There was success at Nebraska basketball while they were together, but you never married the two. You never put them like, holy crap, they're best of friends. They're a duo. They're lockstep with one another. Like that connection has never really been made. And so that's why I don't buy into that too. And then also too, like Texas A&M would absolutely be like, what the guys, 82 and 108 in Nebraska.
37 and 82 in Big Ten. Yeah, they would lose their mind.
But it is going to be interesting with this college basketball head coaching search. You kind of have these mid-major guys outside of Alan Huss who've already been assigned and upgraded to new coaching positions, right? Ryan Odom has upgraded. Ben McCollum has upgraded. Darren DeVries has upgraded. We're to the point where your best options, you read down that list, your best options of grabbing a head coach is cannibalizing another program, taking another program's head coach. I feel like I'm going to be curious to see what the snowball is as to where do we go in terms of one team just having to be like, all right, we're going to have to bite the bullet. Like it's too late. We're going to have to hire an interim or we're going to have to upgrade an assistant coach and then kind of treat next season as, all right, we're kind of, hopefully we'll do well.
So in Trev's like hiring practices, like there's some guys on this, like Scott Cross would make sense. Alan Huss, Kyle Smith would make sense. But if you're at Texas A&M and Texas just hired Sean Miller, you might be forced to call Champaign and go, Brad Underwood.
I think that's your big splash.
Would you like to come to the SEC? But it's just, again, I know how these sites work. I wouldn't get too wound up about it because I don't know how you would sell Fred taking over for Buzz Williams.
No, you couldn't.
And I don't know that Fred would leave to go to of all places like Texas A&M.
I think another thing too, it's incredibly interesting to see these head coaching hirings, right? It's almost as if some of these head coaches, you can tell that they don't know what the future of college basketball is going to be because you have a Big Ten coach go to the Big East, then you had a Big East coach go to the SEC, then you had Buzz Williams go from the SEC to the Big Ten. Like you have all these coaches jumping conferences to different areas because they don't know what situation is necessarily going to be the best.
Well, here's one on that note. Does the Big East, and there's no vacancy at the end, does a conference like the Big East become more popular with coaches because there is no football? So that's why if I'm Ben McCollum, I reach out to Mac and say, hey, when you went from Northern Iowa to Iowa State to a football school, what was that like? Because your profile to recruit got bigger and you were able to get into more living rooms than you weren't at Northern Iowa because you're at Iowa State, but it's a football school. And how do you navigate that? And now Mac, as you can see, thriving at a school that doesn't have football.
Yeah.
I wonder if places that identify themselves as basketball schools are more attractive than the coach that loves coaching is going to go to a school where football sucks the air and the dollars away from you like they do at Texas A&M, You
don't, you have to me, I start to think that there are teams in the Big East, Seton Hall comes to mind. I like Kim English, but maybe Providence starts to think this way where, hey, we're in the Big East, we're a basketball school. Most of our rev share money, while it will be smaller, like the pool will be smaller to cut from because you're not making as much money as football teams are, you will have more of, the pie, the slice of the pie going to basketball. You start to wonder, hey, have our jobs because of this become more attractive? And maybe we should move on from coaches a little bit quicker because there are more proven entities in different conferences who might be coaching at football schools because they want to come over here because we're going to be a basketball school. And Tom Chattel wrote a really good article in the Omaha World Herald about, how the Big East could have an advantage in that regard because a lot of their rev share is going to go to basketball. But I just kind of look at all these different, how coaches are jumping ships to different conferences and they're trading places and they're going back and forth. And I feel like it kind of entails that they don't know what the best situation is going to be for them. They don't know where they can thrive.
Because we had fun last year when they were in town for the coaching search for baseball. So I'm on texasags.com, which is a whole different world when it comes to message boards.
I've been told.
So here are some of the threads. Does it really matter who the coach is? I thought Buzz was different. Austin sports radio station is reporting that we've moved our focus to Chris Jans. Hoiberg has a thread on here. Do you think Trev is good enough to talk to two coaches at once? I stand for Trev for now.
That is a glowing endorsement there. That's incredible.
This guy says Trev and Steve Alford seem like the same guy. That'd be a good mix. Wow. Welcome. Interesting. There's some heat on Trev because he has to. I think he has to swing for the fences here.
It does boil down to, though, if Texas A&M is a consistent national champion contending football school, and they are always in the college football playoff, and they're always in, the top 4, top 6, how many of these fans are really going to be giving that big of a damn about basketball? Maybe right now it matters a lot because they were good this year and football didn't reach those expectations. But if Trev can get football with Mike Elko going in the right direction, I don't know if those message boards are really going to be that
I'm
radiant
not,
with
I'm
basketball.
Not, this is odds. I'd be really, really surprised. I don't know how you would sell it. You lost Buzz Williams, who was pretty good there, and you bring in Fred, who is a known name, but then you peel back and go, oh, okay, what did he do at Nebraska? Then people would lose their mind. They would. Texas Ags would be on fire. And there's only one thread here of 5,000. But if you ever have a little downtime, you want to be amused, Texas Ags is the place to go. All right, quick break, come back. Steve Sipple coming up in the next hour. Brian Edwards as well. His thoughts on the Final Four, where age apparently is a thing. It's the boomers against the millennials. Do you know the age of your favorite coach?
No.
Jimmy, do you? Do you know how old Bill Self is?
He's in his 60s. I know that.
What is Rule 49?
He's 50.
Is he?
I believe he's right there. I think I don't know, is Ben Johnson? I think Ben Johnson is right under 40. By the way, he just got hired. He's already my favorite coach. That's how bleak things are.
I hope for your sanity it does work out.
I hope for this show that it does work out because I'm going to be a heaping pile of mess in the fall if it doesn't.
We're back with more on 1620 The Zone after this. Saw by the grocery store yesterday. The latest GQ. I haven't looked at a GQ magazine in a while.
Great pictures.
Paul Skeens and my friend Livy Dunn.
They look great.
They look great together. You know what? I like them. They are a power couple. I think most people are, because Paul Skeens is really quiet and doesn't say much, and he's not out there. And Livy Dunn doesn't seem to be as much like on my TikToks. But she seems to be like when I first met her. We were kind of limited on what we could talk about.
Sure.
Now I think she has developed more of a personality, and she's not as annoying. So I like them together. But I also think people are cautious to go after like Livy Dunn because she's in college. She's a college athlete.
Yeah.
And Paul Skeens is like a cool dude. Like they just seem cool. I mean, they went on game day and they made picks at LSU. So they're in a spread on GQ about how they met, and they have some very interesting pictures, like classy.
Very mobby
Yeah.
at times. But I like them. I thought they were cool. I think Paul looks cool.
I was standing in the line and the grocery store, and yes, I did not go through self-checkout because it was backed up.
I always prefer a human if I can get one.
You know what? I want that retiree that's working at Hy-Vee at 90th and Center. I want to have conversation. I want them to have something to do. So I stood in their line, but then I was looking at GQ. It's actually a really good spread. It's kind of cool. And now, because Skeens pitched, by the way, yesterday, every time I watch him pitch, all I can think of is don't get injured. Don't get injured.
Know.
Do not get injured. And stay on track so that you pitch at the K either July 7th, 8th, or 9th. Thank you. Bryce Williams is a topic of discussion from Cheddar's Cheetah. By the way, Herrera, 3 home runs for his Cardinals yesterday.
Nice.
Recency bias aside, oh God, is this going to be a let's retire his number?
No.
Is Bryce Williams the best individual player?
Let
me finish. I'll finish reading it.
Go ahead.
Recency bias aside, is Bryce Williams the best individual player Nebraska basketball has ever had? I know Teron Lou, Eric Strickland, Eric Piakowski, Cookie Belcher. Thank you for mentioning Cookie Belcher. But he is fun to watch, and how does he get replaced?
I'll leave that to you.
Well, he's going to be difficult to replace.
He's going to be so hard
because he's a dog. He's a dog, and I'm glad that he loves Vegas because he's been on a banger in the 2 games in Vegas. There is a stat that he is chasing. So with his 28 burger last night, and he's got 58 in the 2 games. What do you get as the MVP of the Crown? Do you get cash? Do you get cash?
You get $25,000 of free play at the Cortez, at the El Cortez Hotel.
They got $50,000 for winning last night, and so however they're going to divvy it up. But I would give
one
Bryce
hand of baccarat.
I would give Bryce like 71% of the $50K that they won.
Isn't that the amount of points he scored? He scored 71% of the points.
He's at 678 points.
Okay.
He is 26 away from passing Dave Hoppin. He is 30 from James Palmer Jr., who was a bucket getter in his brief time at Nebraska. Bryce has made himself into the conversation where if you're talking like the second 5 to come off the bench of Nebraska basketball, Bryce Williams needs to be in the conversation. And it's pretty impressive because he's only been here for 2 years. He will be very, very difficult to replace.
Almost impossible in one fell swoop, in my opinion, to just go and grab a guy who can do. And by the way, it took him 2 years to get to that point. He had to develop there. I mean, he's awesome, man. I love, like you said, you get to watch Bryce Williams play in the Crown. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Because people are kind of they're mixed on Fred, but a program that back-to-back years has had 2 of the most likable players that Nebraska basketball has had in a while. Keisei Tominaga and Bryce Williams. Isn't that interesting? Interesting dynamic?
Yeah, and by the way, those guys he helped develop. He absolutely should get credit for that.
All right. Coming up in the next hour, Steve Sipple will stop by on 1620 The Zone. The fan that we keep alluding to that was sitting on the bench, like if you're Nebraska and let's say you go on a run and you beat Boise State and then, I don't know, let's say Villanova on the other side, does that guy cut down the nets with you?
Yes.
Lean all into it. Yes.
Yes. If he was a kid, he absolutely would have been. You can imagine if it was just like a 8-year-old was just there that was just sitting next to Ida Cooley, like just decked out in Nebraska gear. I guarantee you they probably
the 8-year-old by himself?
By himself in Vegas, having
on
the
a
time
bender,
of his life.
Capri Suns and gummy worms.
He's playing, you just see him at the Wynn, just $2 blackjack table, just sitting down there, crisscross applesauce, just hitting the deal, hitting the hit button. They would be. They probably would have moved him over to the Nebraska bench. I think so. He's a good luck charm. Can you imagine if that same fan was on the bench with HOIBERG next game? That'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
What if they put him in a quarter zip and he was actually coaching? He had a clipboard. He was keeping track of fouls.
That guy became our Connor Scallions.
All right. So just for people that are tuning in that have seen my tweet about sportsbetting.org about the next Texas A&M head coach, Porter Moser at 3-1, Fred HOIBERG is 7-2. I would be blown away if that happened. But they're just in Vegas. They're putting together a connection of, okay, where was Trev at and who is the basketball coach there without going, I don't know that it would fit. I also don't know that I would want to be involved with the Colt.
When the Colt has a lot of money, maybe people would want to be involved in the Colt in that regard. When you're just given the war chest and you're like, you want that guy? Here you go. That would get me to want to be a part of the Colt.
To be in the SEC, go from the Big Ten to the SEC in that gauntlet.
I know. Well, that and
Whataburger is delicious, but you can get that.
This is just fun to have a nice little conversation about. It ain't happening.
This is classic, like national media just trying to be like, where did he come from? Who was the former coach? Is there a possibility that former coach would end up going over there? We're going to put him at 7-2 in order to be, the next head coach of Texas A&M. I don't think there's anything other than if there's like you said, if you peel back the curtain, you really dive deep into what Fred HOIBERG has done and the situation that he has here. And what, by the way, in the last 2 years, and I know Trev hasn't been there for the entirety of the time, right? He's been for 2 of the 3, but you have a new baseball coach, new football coach, new basketball coach at Texas A&M. I mean, he. So
he didn't hire Elko,
no,
right?
He did not.
Elko got hired in the football season before Trev arrived. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But I think Mike Elko was Mike
hire.
Elko was a Trev Alberts type hire.
I think so. Yeah,
good at their job, not super flashy, not gonna draw headlines and win the press conference.
Built a program that needed to be built up. Had success at a place where there hadn't been a lot of consistent success. Elko, much like Matt Rule, did more with less at his previous stop. I really do think that is the type of hire that Trevor would have made regardless. But I mean, he needs to make a good hire. He needs to make a splash. He tried doing it with Chris Beard. Good for Ole Miss, by the way.
I don't know if he did.
You don't think that there was
I don't know. That sounds shady that you're reaching out to Texas A&M before
Chris
the season
Beard
is over.
Shady? No.
I know. I thought he turned I thought he turned over a new leaf. And he gets a 6-year deal.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't like at noon say, hey, let's get a deal for that coach. And by 12:30 announce it. Like if it's a 6-year deal, there's a lot of things in that contract. So this has been being worked on for a while. I mean, he played the game. He played the right way. I'm a little bit startled right now by a picture one of our listeners have sent us.
What did they send you? What did they send? Send
one of us? It can't be me. I never go anywhere.
I'm now shook over a Nebraska basketball player.
Uh-oh.
Let me just read this email, and then this picture will kind of make sense. This is from Joey. I'm 45. Are we going to be the show? Are we going to take over for Dan Patrick, where you give your
statistics?
Yeah. 6'2", 180.
We tried that one time.
I'm 45. I'm a man, and I love Husker basketball, which Joey has been. He's been a Husker basketball fan his whole life. He said, my favorite players to watch, just to watch, no particular order, Lou, Palmer, Casey, Bryce, Pettaway. Man, Terran Pettaway also had and he had a brief career. Why do all these guys, we need more 4-year guys at Nebraska, but guys come in for a cup of coffee and they usually bang it for a couple of years. That's why like a guy like Lou is a rarity, and Lou wasn't here for all 4 years. Remember, he went to the NBA early. Bryce's skill set being a 3-level scorer is something I haven't seen around here in a long time. Matt was alluding to that. We were talking that off air. You barely see that in college basketball nowadays. Not going to put him too high. No recency bias, but for me, he's a top 7 Husker again in my lifetime. He's in the discussion of the 5 in a hockey line change for the all-time Nebraska basketball team. He's got to be in that second 5. But here's the picture that has startled me. It's a long season. Remember the season?
Yeah, they're playing into April now.
Do you remember when they beat UCLA on January 4th? Doesn't that seem like a lifetime ago?
I'm used to April basketball.
Remember when the Diamond Head was ours?
Oh, that ore.
A listener has just sent me a picture, and I can't unsee this.
What is it?
I'm getting unsettled over
Me too. I'm nervous about what you're going to tell me.
Do you remember how Bryce Williams began this season?
No, I do not remember.
He didn't have a beard.
Oh, Lord. Did you just see like a beardless Bryce and you're like startled?
This Bryce Williams looks like he just got on campus.
Like he's not a senior?
Compared to last night, Bryce Williams looked like he was like mid-20s.
Is this that North Dakota State lineman that looked clean cut when he started and by the end he looked like a caveman?
Yeah. Isn't he? He got drafted
he's
pretty
good.
high. Yeah. Isn't he with the Saints or something? I forget his name.
I don't remember his name. I don't remember if I had dinner last night.
It doesn't look like
You're back. What happened to the joy of sport that you were gonna what that did last an hour?
I just don't remember if I had dinner last night. I'll have to check.
Is it like, does Bryce Williams at the beginning of the season and Bryce Williams at the end of the season look like a 4-year presidential term? I would not be surprised.
He didn't.
If this season aged him out of anybody who could have gotten age from this year. It's the guy who's been dropping 20 to 30 pretty consistently, being like, I don't know what to do, guys. I don't know what to do. I'm doing my part.
He just, like when Happer makes a mistake and he has to shave his beard, how different he looks.
Oh, I haven't seen it in person, but I got a feeling.
Bryce Williams looks so much different without a beard. But that's how the year began.
Isn't it?
I just remember Happer without a beard. It makes me sad.
Well, it's like when he grew the beard,
Harden.
He became a better 3-point shooter. Maybe you should keep the beard. How about that?
A couple of other emails. This goes way back to something we were talking about earlier.
Nice.
I like going way back. It lends for good moments here on the show.
So this is from Scott, and he emails into the Equitable Bank inbox. He goes, I heard your discussion about looking ahead to the schedule on week 4. Would game day be in Lincoln or at North Carolina, Central Florida? He goes, I have PTSD. He goes, even though it was cool, I don't want Nebraska, Michigan being a night game because if you recall, they never won a game the rest of that year. And a couple of games into the next season, the head coach was gone.
I mean, there are a few other things.
I am pro 11 a.m. or 2:30. Now, the 45-7 game was 11.
That was
2:30.
Was that 2:30?
Yeah, it was 2:30.
Was that a 2:30 game?
Was J.J. McCarthy kissing his girlfriend on the sidelines by 3:30?
Yep. I remember taking the dog out when the game got out of hand.
2:45. Try probably after Heinrich Harburg on a 4th and 1 took a shotgun snap and ran right into the center. How about that?
Tush push without the push.
That was the one time my family fully came and visited Nebraska to see Lincoln and to see how my college life was going. And it ended in that disaster. But hey, we'll never forget Josh Fleeks. Never forget that moment.
We've forgotten him. Trust me. We have forgotten him.
Never forget that moment.
There could be.
You didn't drink enough.
Hey, from the 21-22 football season around here, and Scott is absolutely right. So they had the 56-7 game before that Michigan game, which
that's when we were introduced to the Killigans that night.
Yes, and that was the moment because that was one of the rare times in the last decade where Lincoln was buzzing. The Colorado game this year, but Lincoln was buzzing. Because it was a night game. It was Michigan. Nebraska had just blown out Northwestern the week before. Now, Nebraska wasn't having a great year. They were, 3-2 going into that game? Is that right?
They looked good against Northwestern.
They had 3 wins at that point.
But you remember how the year began. They lost in Champaign.
Yes.
Scott is right. So they never won a game the rest of the way. So Scott's last 8 games at Nebraska, he was 1-7. But that season, so they beat Northwestern. That was their last win. I think,
and I remember the articles that like came out after that were like, "Oh my god, this is incredible."
It's just the vibe of that Michigan game was.
No, I was on the sideline for that game. It was incredible,
but it was Nebraska got screwed. Oh, geez, there's another fumble. The officials sucked, and then the next time Michigan rolls in, hey, payback is hell, and Stallions had all the plays, and it was 45-7. You're like, Jesus, somebody save Hoiberg. He's going to get killed.
Didn't they? Wasn't
I'm pro 11 a.m. for that game.
Wasn't a couple weeks?
When you put it that way,
I've changed my opinion.
Well, that was one of those games against Michigan where like it gave you hope for the rest of the year. Where it's like, man, if we could compete against this team, like we could compete against a lot of teams.
We were so desperate.
And then you had
we were so desperate.
You had Minnesota the next week, and you're like, all right, you're at Minnesota. Like Tanner Morgan isn't a threat. He's not that great of a quarterback. We could go in there. We could beat him. You lose. Then you go in the next game. You play Purdue at home. There's still a little bit of hope. All right, hey, we had our bad game last week. We could go ahead. We're at home. We're at Memorial. Last time we were at Memorial, we almost beat one of the best teams in the country. You lose that game, and it wasn't all that competitive.
God, we're dumb on the radio. I think we helped that hype. God, we are so desperate. We are. we are.
This is why you have the crown.
I'll tell you something right now. That one game, because we call the team the greatest 3-9 team of all time, right? That's like what the saying is. That 2021 Nebraska team, greatest 3-9 team of all time. It was literally just because of that Michigan game, because that Michigan game was so competitive, and they probably should have won, and they didn't. That's all. That's all of where that came from.
Well, you know what? I'm going to change my tune this year. So the close wins, would it say more about Nebraska football, and you can judge progress, if they started to win by comfortable margins against Big Ten teams or win close games?
Comfortable margins against Big Ten teams.
Look at the reaction to the Wisconsin win when they beat Wisconsin by 19.
It was a big deal. It was a massive, like the morale. You could honestly, Gary, you could argue that the morale had never been higher since that Northwestern game where they had absolutely killed them. That was the last time the morale was that high, because I think the whole close game argument here. Okay, let's say you do win one of them. You still have all the past history of losing all of those close games where there's still going to be doubt. There's still going to be well, can you do it again? Right? We're in the process of like, can you do it to begin with? And the next time you do it, can you do it again? I'm just interested, and I think it'll be a much bigger deal if they go and they play a team in the Big Ten that they're favored against, that you're confident they're going to beat, and they kill them. That'll mean way more. If they go like this year when UCLA came into town and they were a pretty marginal favorite, and if they had just gone and beat them by 21, you're like, yeah, that's who we are.
Well, they lost by 7.
That's what we're supposed to do.
So in rules 2 years, let's see, Wisconsin they beat by 19. They beat Purdue by 18, and then they beat Purdue by 17 his first year, and they beat Illinois by 13. And so I think those are their stretch of big wins in the Big Ten, because they only beat Rutgers by a touchdown.
Yeah.
Only beat Northwestern that 17-9 game.
Yeah.
No, I think this is is a sign of improvement, and you can't cop out and go, well, just winning. Winning by a comfortable margin or winning close games. Because there's more close games that you've lost compared to large margin games that you've blown out. Really the only giant that they've had a blowout each year. 45-7 against Michigan, then 56-7 at Indiana this year.
Yeah.
Or this past season.
I think that when you really break down the 8 years without a bowl game, what does that really stem from? Losing the games that you're supposed to win, losing the games that you're the favorite in, losing the games that, or, even when you do win the game, all right, now you have momentum, not being able to carry. That's another thing. That's another aspect too. I would love to see them win a game by 20, and then the next game play a team that they're also going to be favored against, and then also win that game by 20 and be like, no, we actually carried the momentum we had from last week into this week, or on the contrary, you beat a team by 20 that you're supposed to beat. Then you play a really, really good team that maybe you're an underdog against, and that game is at least competitive or at least close. So your win last week, it merited people being more invested into your team, because That's really what the biggest, a massive problem was with Indiana. There was belief they're going to win that game, and then they got smacked. I mean, there was a belief that, hey, oh yeah, heading into that game after how being competitive against Illinois, going there was some chutzpah. There was like, hey, this is a very big game.
Listening to 1620 that week, apparently.
I was on the week before. There was a little of like, hey, this is going to be a competitive game. This is going to be a game that they could end up winning.
Competitive.
Not supposed to win, but they could end up winning at Indiana.
All right, the joy of sports, which I think is sometimes sucked out by all the gambling talk that goes on. Boise State's a 1.5 favorite for the game at 12:30 on Saturday in the Crown. Steve Sipple will join us next.
Not on my board.
1620 The Zone. And a guy who I know he has contemplated going out and joining his colleague, Robin Washut, out in Vegas at the Crown for Saturday. It is Stephen M. Sipple from On3, Husker Online, and 93.7 The Ticket. Good morning.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Good. Has it crossed your mind at all since last night of going to Vegas for the weekend?
No. I mean, not real. No, it hasn't. It hasn't.
How are you consuming the 2-0 start at the Crown?
I watched it till 5 minutes was left in the first half last night. I got an early show like you guys, and but it was clear to me who was going to win at that point.
It was,
yeah,
it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes left in the first half. It was very clear what was going to happen.
Well, they brought it within 8, Steve. There were some moments where they were single digits and they closed the door.
Come on.
Are you buying it, by the way? Actually, like, legitimate interview question here. Like, Cale Jacobson started yesterday, played 36 minutes, looked pretty damn good on both sides of the floor. Is there any like investment or like buy-in that you're taking from his performances at the Crown, or is it kind of just this is a postseason tournament that doesn't have enough stakes for you to really, look toward anything toward next season in terms of the performances you see?
No, I mean, Jacobson played well from what I saw. I see the whole first game. If I didn't, I saw most of it. Jacobson played well in the first game of the Crown and played from what I saw in the first half last night, played really well.
Yeah.
No, you take something from that. He's good. Listen, I don't want to go overboard here, but he's viable. He could be you wonder what I would wonder with Jacobson is he discovering that he could go play, maybe start for a team somewhere, maybe Summit.
You and my co-host trying to rain on the parade.
It's the world we live in. Even though he's a Nebraska kid that has stuck it out, that crossed my mind that somebody will slide into his DMs and they might offer him a little bit of money. He'd have to think about it. No. That's how Sip and I think. It's the new world, man.
And Fred might have to. What he might be doing is making himself a sizable. It's all relative. He's not going to make Josh Dix money, but he could make $100,000. Seriously, I mean,
no, you're not wrong.
Might be able to do that.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Dix's number. I was told by a coach yesterday. Dix's number is $2.5 million. That's for a guy who averaged 14.4. And I don't mind. I don't say numbers I'm not confident. I know that's the number. It's incredible what's going on out there. So a guy like Jacobson might be able to slide in and get 6 figures.
Hey, so I just sparked a thought because you are right. The money that is being thrown around is enormous. I also think all of the process before the portal happened that was going on during the season, because there's a lot of guys that committed right away. So that was all in the works. Do you think, and Nebraska's NIL for basketball aside, do you actually think in the NIL world and the transfer eligible immediate world has really lessened the impact of Fred HOIBERG? Because you can't sell Fred HOIBERG if you don't have money to back it up. Where maybe in the past you could sell Fred and guys would be like, oh yeah, I want to go play for you. But now Fred can go, hey, you can come play for me, but I don't have $2.5 million like Indiana or KU or something like that. Not as an excuse, but maybe the reality in what he used to do.
I mean, let's put it this way. Again, talked to a coach yesterday. The brands don't matter anymore.
That's a great point.
Kansas doesn't. It doesn't. What's on your shirt doesn't matter. There's one thing that matters, and you know what it is: the number. So, no, what has to happen at Nebraska if they're going to be serious is they have to really ramp up their NIL program. And I don't. You know what? Obviously, I guess I've been somewhat critical of Fred, but you almost have to back off that. He can only do so much. Nebraska, unfortunately, is in a position where you can almost, it's just not going to be Auburn. It's just you just got to play. You're kind of playing in a different kind of, I don't know, just in a different world. You just can't do it. You got to have way more money if you expect to go beat Auburn and Florida and Duke and Houston. You got to have a lot more money than Nebraska is willing to put out.
This may be a silly question, but I feel like if I lay it out to you in a way that it might be able to cultivate a pretty good thought. So, there's 2 different aspects of college sports right now. There's, basketball coaches and there's football coaches. Those are the 2 main sports, and those are the 2 main mediums of men being paid a lot of money to deal with a lot of things that they don't know what's going on, right? And both of them have they're incredible issues. Football's got the 105 and the tampering and the transfer portals and the schedules and just the pressure of being the moneymaker. Basketball has the issues of just the uncertainty. You really don't know how your athletic department is going to prioritize you and how much money you're going to get, especially if you're at a football school. Steve Sipple, if you had your choice, would you rather be a basketball coach right now or a football coach right now?
Oh, God. Oh, God almighty. Neither. I just do something else. Like, if I had to do one of them, is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. If you had to do one of them.
It depends who my AD is in part. Like, if I have a reasonable AD that doesn't have a lot of expectations, I would be a basketball coach because there's fewer headaches and fewer guys, fewer people involved. I'd go basketball, but I'd hope that I'd have an AD who kind of understood, how do I go beat, God bless Fred. I mean, he beat Creighton twice. He's beaten Creighton twice in the last 3 years, right? He did it with, even though Creighton is much better positioned in the NIL world. So yeah, I don't know what as a basketball coach, unless you're at a well-heeled school, those guys in the Final Four, and then you can name up some other ones. A lot of those Big East schools are in good shape financially. And I'm talking about NIL, the ability to pay players. I hope people understand what I'm talking about. I can't expect people to read my mind. That Josh Dick's story, I talked to a coach yesterday. It really is an eye-opener.
Yeah.
You can't offer him $1.8 million because the number's now 2.5. Creighton's involved. I mean, Creighton already has paid a lot for Owen Freeman, and they get the kids from Charlotte. Now they still got enough money for Dix. I mean, Nebraska can't do that. They can't do that.
Yeah.
They're not in position to do it. So Creighton's got this huge advantage. And that's what I mean. If I have an AD who understands that, yeah, I'd probably choose the basketball route. If I have an AD who's breathing down my neck, even though I'm at this large deficit in our ability to pay for the best players, then I don't know. I'd probably still do basketball, get a big contract, and know that I'm probably going to, I'm going to make $16 million, but I'm not going to be here.
Hey, Steve Sipple joining us. Let's shift to football because listening to John Butler talk the other day, and we got to see him in action last week on the field the first time as a defensive coordinator. Matt Rule, to me, speaks in bullet points. Boom, 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 boom. John Butler is a deep thinker. Not saying that Rule is not, but when Rule speaks, it's bam, bam, bam. John Butler would like to read you the book from the front to the back.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic, but why do you think it will work with Matt Rule, a defensive guy, having John Butler as his defensive coach?
Why do I think it can work?
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of respect for what Butler did in the NFL with the Bills. I mean, he did exemplary work with the secondary there. I don't. It's a hard question to answer because you don't really know because he has such a limited experience as a defensive coordinator. I like his sort of no nonsense approach. I also like that he expects his guys to be immersed in the game and understand it at a high level, understand opponents, understand football at a high level. I love that. There's just a lot. Hey, but man, come on now. There's a lot we don't know about. How do I know how he's going to deal with all these new staff members? It sounds good, but we've been through this here at Nebraska for many years. It always sounds good in the spring.
Yeah.
How's it going to look? And that now I like their plan. I think they got a great plan, and the plan is we got to get better on third down. We got to get better in the red zone. We got to close out too. Get the interception. Recover the ball when it's on the ground. I like what they're doing. That's probably it. It doesn't really have anything to do with the relationship of Rule and Butler in my mind. In some ways, it's not it's inconsequential to me. I've come to sort of believe that doesn't matter as much anymore, and it can't, because we're not in the era of coaches staying at places for a long time. I don't expect Dana Holgorsen to be at Nebraska for a long time. I don't, maybe a year or two.
So the life of Dylan.
Yeah. So what is the relationship with the head coach? Does it matter with Dana? No. I don't think it does.
No.
I think he's he works. I think there's a lot of autonomy with Dana, so I don't know. I just believe that each guy better be able to get his job done. And I don't imagine that all these guys are going to be here for a long time.
Steve, I've been at these press conferences, and I've always had an affinity studying some of the questions that you might ask, and some of the you've kind of been. I feel like you're really interested in the Phil Snow relationship within this team. If correct me if I'm wrong, but your take on it and your just opinion on what his role is and whether or not it'll have a great effectiveness on this staff after what you've heard and what you've heard from him and what you've heard from other coaches in terms of what he's been doing.
Gigantic hire, and I think it could be critical. I mean, his accomplishments are well documented. Having somebody with that sort of experience around every day, free to assess the scene, assess the defense, assess everything in its totality and with a broad view, I think it's gigantic. And then, if you want him to go micro, he'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
So he could be a great help to a guy like Butler. In fact, it's a really, the reason it's so compelling to me is Snow could run the defense really well. Now he's up there. His age is a factor, and he doesn't want to do a lot of the stuff that's required now. And a 51-year-old like Butler is much more suited. So, but Butler, his answer was great the other day. He's not going to stiff arm the feedback. He seems like he respects. You don't know for sure. He's at a podium. He's going to say the right things, but it seemed genuine that he respects Snow. And so, yeah, I think the setup is really good. And I also want to be clear, Butler. The one thing about Butler that I would never question is two things about him: his willingness to work and his knowledge of football. There's no question in my mind. If you're at the NFL and you operate at the level he did, I can't imagine what he knows. An incredible amount.
Yeah. He is a deep thinker when it comes to the picture of how everything fits together in football. You and Sean were talking about this. And so one of the things I think when Butler spoke the other day, most of the guys that have come out as players to talk to the media are older guys, so they're established, so we know about them. You and Sean were talking about this, and it dawned on me because I was waiting for Butler to talk about defensive guys in particular, like certain young guys. Hey, how do they look? How do they make it through winter conditioning? What do they look like in the first week and a half? Hey, especially defensive back, we got 28 guys there. Who's maybe sliding over and playing a little rover? How's Caleb Benning looking? How's Donnie Jones looking? You and Sean were talking about this, and it dawned on me that I think you're spot on, that because of this whole world of portal and money, that maybe young guys being talked about heavily in the spring about, man, they look really good, those days might be over. Can you expand on that? Because I think you're onto a good point. You and Sean were on Husker Online.
Yeah, and I don't know that's the reason, Gary, but it could be. I mean, because if you lay out it doesn't even have to be a really young guy anymore. If you just talk about anybody that's on the rise or just playing well. Yeah, I mean, there's teams are watching. It's getting wild out there. I mean, I just heard. So yeah, what I'm saying, what we're suggesting is, why talk about a Donovan Jones openly and glowingly if someone just happens to be paying attention and says, "Wait a second, we could go get him. What's his number? You know, that's what it is now. I mean, Kirby. I don't know if you guys played that Kirby Smart Sound. I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. But he says right now, you know, the portal window opens April 15th. The next portal window opens April 15th. So these agencies now are shopping players in advance of the portal window opening, and they're players that are on teams right now. I mean, and he said it could be one of my guys that they're shopping.
Well, yeah, he talked about how he and coaches were invited to Zooms to meet with some of these players who were, you know, being represented by agents as, hey, these are potential guys that are going to the portal. And he kind of described it as, well, I can enter the Zoom and some of my dudes are there, which is absolutely insane. It's like going on a blind date and finding your girlfriend.
Right. So that's why you might play it much more close to the vest these days. I don't know that all coaches will, but it would make sense if that's why he did it. It also makes sense from the standpoint of just why, you know, it's just, I don't know. I think Matt Rule does it sometimes where he speaks glowingly about players to pump them with confidence in a world where their confidence can be shredded quickly on social media. And kids are affected by it. Social media is wicked. I mean, it's a wicked place for players. It's really hard for guys. I see stuff sometimes I can't even believe they're saying about a player. But it's sort of the world, and you got to deal with it. But I think there's a reason sometimes where you see coaches do pump players up publicly. It's to counter that negativism that's all over the place. You know, so I don't know. These are tricky times. They're tricky times for a coach. Yeah. Coaching's never been easy. I mean, not since I've been covering it, and that's 34 years. That element has never been easy. But I don't know. Anymore, it seems almost unwieldy to me.
It does. Sip, as always, we appreciate it. Thank you, my friend.
All right. God bless you both.
God bless you, too. That's Stephen M. Sipple. That's crazy to me, and that's what sucks, and that's what you lose the appeal of, like, college football is, let's say a backup defensive lineman has a good spring and they talk about him, and you instead of thinking, man, we're going to have that guy in the fall and he loves to be here and, man, he competes and he's working his way up the depth chart, but he understands the guys in front of him a little bit older. But you have to pause and go, I wonder if he'll be with us in the fall because, Alabama, Washington Post, A&M might have an interest in a starting position right away. And so they're going to reach out to my guy.
Well,
contracts, baby. We need contracts. We need contracts sooner than later.
You go to the case of Donovan Jones, right? Where I don't know for sure. I haven't been told or anything, but like you have to think that maybe someone saw the Pinstripe Bowl and saw this really young defensive back who hasn't played a lot this year, and maybe they reached out to him and they couldn't get him in the first portal cycle. And then what happens? You're listening to these press conferences and all you hear is, man, he's taking incredible steps. He's getting even better. He's going to be our starter. That could probably, that might trigger a team to be like, all right, well, maybe we should up our dollar then from what it was the first time. I'm not saying that happened. That's just a hypothetical.
No, I mean, it is. It's a good hypothetical. I mean, with Donnie, still trying to push that Nebraska needs to offer his younger brother at North. I mean, the opportunity to play with his brother would be pretty cool again since they played at North. But let's use a different guy.
Sure.
Let's use Rex Guthrie, who is not one of the frontline guys.
Yeah.
But they do like him.
Mm-hmm.
He might be having a good start to spring ball, but maybe don't mention his name so it doesn't get out there.
Sure.
Because you don't want to lose him because he could be a valuable asset, but you understand he probably wants to play. That's such a weird dynamic, and let's have contracts.
Last year
105 on contracts.
Oh, 1,000,000%. But last year you heard some droplings of Ja'Cory Barney, right? I don't think that's something that you're.
Well, he got approached after the season after the regular season ended from an SEC school.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm just talking about from like a spring. Like you haven't seen him yet. No one really knows, but we did hear his name that he looked good. That's probably a guy where if you have a dude who was a 3-star in that area of the country, you're not going to bring that up again.
And he's now going to be a starter, so you don't have to worry about. But I'm going to Vincent Shavers is another guy. Vincent Shavers looked good last year when he wasn't playing in the regular
Yeah.
But maybe they're like, let's don't bring him up because there's going to be people down and back home that are going to be like, okay, hey, he's not playing up there,
Sure.
but they like him.
Sure. It's a great point.
Welcome to this is why it's the college football and college basketball are becoming less fan friendly. You know, when I said, is the appeal of college basketball lost? That's one of the things that you use as an example. I don't want to invest in a power forward who's got 3 years of eligibility because he'll be gone after a year. What if you went and bought a Pop Isaacs jersey? Now I gotta exchange it with the people in Oxford to get an Ole Miss Pop Isaacs jersey, Dad.
Unfortunately, that's a good tease. Unfortunately, that's not just a basketball problem. That's a college sports problem now.
Brian Edwards likes college sports. He likes his basketball team that's in the Final Four in the greatest SEC game ever coming up on Saturday. He'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to talk to Mr. Florida Gator, our senior handicapper from Vegas Insider. You can find his content everywhere. You can find him right here every Thursday. It is Brian Edwards. Are you going to the Final Four in San Antonio?
Oh, great question.
I am not.
B.
All right.
It's your boys. You got to go.
Yeah, the not being able to book a flight until 6 days in advance,
Yeah.
and then the 3 nights of hotel rooms. How much are the tickets going to cost? What about to change the flight from returning Sunday to Tuesday, et cetera? If it were in Atlanta or New Orleans, of course I'd be there. But just this one's tough.
Well, we got to up the units then.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's start locally here because you have crown fever like most of America does, and Nebraska beat Georgetown last night. If you would have told the Husker fan in 1980 that Nebraska basketball would beat Georgetown, they would have taken it. But this is 2025, so now they play a really good Boise State team who put up 100 last time out. The early line has come out for this game, 1.5 to 2 on Bet Online, as you saw it. I'm guessing that Boise State better than Nebraska. You like Boise State for a Saturday morning matchup in Vegas?
I do. I like how Boise's playing 9-2 straight up, 8-3 against the spread in that stretch. Two of the losses, both of the losses to Colorado State, a round of 32 team that got beat at the buzzer in the round of 32. So I like how Boise's playing. And, look, I've done Boise, Nebraska moneyline parlays yesterday and 2 days before that. So both have been good to me, but I like Boise at the small number.
Brian, you're a sicko. So you have Crown Fever. You got the Crown games here. I also see that you have Chattanooga versus UC Irvine in the NIT championship. Irvine earlier in the year was kind of in the NCAA tournament mix, was even being thrown out as at large bid. They're now taking on Chattanooga in the NIT. What's your read on that, Brian?
Yeah, I think the wrong team's favored. Not that either team should be favored by a lot, but I like Chattanooga, 28-9 straight up, 23-12 against the spread. They have won outright in each of their last 8 games as an underdog. They've been underdogs in all 4 NIT games, obviously winning outright. The Mocs are 16-1 straight up, 14-3 ATS in 17 games dating back to January 25th, and their only loss in that span was in overtime to Furman in the SoCon tournament semifinals. I think the Mocs went outright. I'm on them +4, and then for a smaller amount, I'm on them +160 on the money line.
Hey, let's go to the Final Four, and we'll let Matt ask you about your beloved Gators. But I know Duke has been a juggernaut, and Duke is averaging 92 points in the tournament, and they are rolling right now. But like looking at the line and just hearing people talk about this game, are we forgetting about Houston B? I mean, they're the top defense. They play hard. They're tough. They're well coached. But it seems like Houston isn't getting any respect. And I know Duke is good, but Duke is a 5-point favorite. Where do you lean in the nightcap from San Antonio on Saturday?
Yeah, I like Duke. I just I love everything about Houston except for their inability to get buckets at times. And I just, I wish they had, another shooter or two. And I just don't trust them offensively. And obviously, I love their defense. I love their rebounding, toughness, coaching, etc. I just don't think they're gonna have enough offense to keep up with Duke. I think Duke wins by 8-12.
All right, let's move to your Florida Gators, who I picked to win the national championship, and then you and I both cashed out on them to win the West region at plus money. # easiest bet of all time. Thank you for that, BE. They play a team in Auburn who has been damn good all season, who was kind of pegged as the #1 seed dating all the way back to like January, but to be fair, I mean, your Gators are playing some of the best basketball of their season. I don't know if you can say the same for the Tigers. And then on top of that, Janiah Broome, legitimately got injured in their last game. where there is some concerns of whether or not he's going to be fully 100% to play. Gators are laying 2.5. Where you been here on your guys?
Well, I'm not as confident in my guys as I was after the SEC tournament. In truth, Florida played good the first 12 minutes of the Norfolk State game. Yeah. They played good the last 4 or 5 minutes of the UConn game. They played good the second half against Maryland, and they played good the last 4 or 5 minutes against Texas Tech. I don't know if that's good or bad that they haven't played their best basketball. Maybe that's good that they are here without playing their best, and now they're going to turn it on. But, regardless of all that, they are the only team to win at Auburn this year. They were without Elijah Martin. Auburn was fully healthy. Florida led by 21 mid-second half. The 90-81 final was a little misleading. And, again, Elijah Martin was out that game. And Elijah Martin's healthy now, and Broome is the one that's not healthy. So I got to go Florida minus 2.5. But the one I like the most, and maybe this is because I've got futures tied into Florida, and that's why I'm betting it the most. But I like Florida. Now this, because the total moved, I want to say it was up to 161.5, and it moved down to 159.5 yesterday. So the team total for Florida, I bet a little bit at 81.5, but I bet more at 80.5 yesterday. So Florida, they have scored at least 81 points in 31 of 38 games. They have scored at least 84 in 9 of their last 10, and at least 86 in 8 of the last 10. And they averaged 85.4, and they scored 90 at Auburn. So Florida team total over 81-ish is my favorite, but also recommending Florida minus 2.5. They are 11-3 against the spread as single-digit favorites. And, like the Gators and the team total over.
Hey, over on where you do a lot of work as well, majorwager.com, what are some – so let's fast forward to Monday night, and let's say Duke wins. Mm-hmm. What are we looking at? Like Duke, Florida, what is the hypothetical line that is out there for that game?
Yeah, you can actually bet these at FanDuel right now, and if the matchup doesn't come to fruition, it just becomes a no play.
Okay.
Duke is minus 4.5 with a minus 120 price. The Gators are plus 4.5, minus 102. The Gators are plus 172 money line. Total 159.5. Duke is 6.5 to Auburn at a minus 102 price. Auburn plus 202 money line. Total 153.5. Florida minus 1.5 at a minus 114 price to Houston. Total 143.5. And Houston is a 1.5 point favorite to Auburn. Total 138.5.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's minus plus 170 on your guys against Duke. I mean, I don't know. I think I would go ahead and take that. I mean, is my read there wrong?
I'm not against it. Like I said, after the SEC tournament, in fact, Ben Fox of Yahoo reached out to me, and he wanted to know how I'd power rate, the top 5 teams and how I would, make their spreads. And I made Florida a 4-point favorite against Duke. Now, I would not make Florida a 4-point favorite against Duke right now.
Yeah.
I'd probably make it pick 'em or Duke minus 1. But no, I'm not against that thinking of plus 172 on Florida. I've got so many futures cooked in with Florida at 35-1. And then I've also got, I did an exacta before the Elite Eight of Florida Duke in the finals plus 250, Duke to beat Florida in the finals plus 425, and Florida to beat Duke in the finals plus 590. So I've got all kind of action going there. So plus 172 doesn't really get me going,
doesn't
but
interest
I'm not
you.
against it.
Yeah.
If I didn't have any of that going, plus 172 probably interests me.
Hey, great stuff. By the way, I'm really enjoying all the content on majorwager.com.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, that's great stuff. B, have a wonderful weekend. Good luck to you, the Gators.
Thanks for having me, guys. Y'all have a great weekend as well.
Thanks,
B. Brian Edwards, majorwager.com, and he's also the senior handicapper for VegasInsider.com. America, why aren't we cheering for Houston? Calvin Sampson, he needed Houston as much as they needed him. The 60s, 70s, 80s, those were bangers. We loved them, right, Jimmy? They went away for a while. Houston is back.
Long
Calvin
live Guy
Sampson's
Lewis.
Awesome. Hey, do you know what's going to be back tomorrow? Right here?
Us?
Matt's big board makes its return tomorrow. I'll tell you something right now. It's going to be full of picks.
I may not get any sleep tonight.
Baseball, the ponies, basketball. Heck, there might be some spring football in there. It's a big board this week.
There better be. It is Nebraska, after all.
There will not be a lot of good feelings about the stock market this morning. If you know, you know. Crossover is coming up next. We'll be back in tomorrow at 6, maybe with a full-on preview of Nebraska-Boise State.
Yeah, 4 hours of it.
Not really. We'll have to talk about some spring football. That'll really make some people mad.
It's in your contract.
We'll see you tomorrow at 6. Have a great day, everybody. Crossover, the Connor Happer Show is coming next.